55.
Yeah, 55.
55 is good.
Nailed it.
See,
I saw a discussion on, I didn't see because it was on a podcast. I heard a discussion on Waypoint where they were talking about like clap timing, and they're like, oh yeah, you got to start moving your hands so they come together right at the second flipping over. And so now I'm self-conscious every time I do it. Like,
that's what I tried to do before, but it seemed like no one else was, so I stopped doing that.
I'm gonna say, as the person who edits it, it doesn't fucking matter.
No, I know, because that was what it was a joke, I think, on the show when they were talking about it. But now I'm always like, did I do it right?
Yeah, because honestly, what the sync point is to get it close enough, and then I just match it to the the video recording.
Yeah, totally.
So.
All right.
I gotta come up with some hot joke before your stupid introductions.
Wow, Alex is mean today.
No, they're stupid introductions because they're always like they're like the smart kind of stupid, if you know what I mean. Like
this is backpedaling. This is just backpedaling.
Yeah, it's how like how they're unimportant, like everything I say.
I thought that the joke was the opposite of that.
It was very much the opposite of that.
Yeah, you just heard it wrong.
Sure. Now who's got the stupid jokes? All right.
I mean,
well, not me yet. I'm still trying to find one.
Hello, and welcome to episode 130 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on July 18th, 2020. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite file format. I am joined today by Alex.
Hi, I'd be a FLAC.
Lossless, baby. Gotcha. Allison.
For a brief point, I thought you were indicating that we were renaming the podcast to The Gaming Fyx, and I was very, very confused.
I was like, is this an NPR show?
I was like, well, I didn't know we were rebranding. Okay.
Pat.
Be a .rar file so that you have to go through a lot of really frustrating stuff to get access to me. But once you do, only the best things come in RARs.
That's true. Nothing bad has ever come in a RAR file.
Well, I mean, there could be bad stuff in any file format.
And that beautiful laugh, my favorite person this week, joining us once again, Erica.
Hi.
Hell
Yay!
yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Pat just made me upset about those fucking RAR files, though, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Because
you have to download shareware to unlock it.
No, it's not share.
WinRAR.
Yeah, you can use WinRAR. It just nags you. It's like, oh, upgrade me, but it'll still work.
Yeah, but like, it's like shareware in that you're supposed to pay for it at a certain point.
But don't tell me what to do constantly. I'm mad about it.
You get like 7-zip or something. Does 7-zip work on RAR files? I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yes, it does. I use it.
I opened a 7-zip file recently and I don't remember what it was, but I had to use that program.
7-zip kicks big butt.
Yeah. Yes. I just remember like lots of like when I was a kid, I've not pirated a video game in a very long time, but a lot of like cracked video games and stuff came in RAR files. And so it was always fun things. Either it was going to melt your computer or you were about to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City, baby.
Baby. Well, speaking of playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City, we played video games this week.
Oh, yeah. I played a lot of video games this week.
Yeah, me too.
I played 2 video games this week. But,
I played more video games than what I brought, but I only listed some of them because
you don't want to be here all day.
I'm Pat.
I don't know. I could be here all day.
Video games.
What else do I have to do? Played more video games, really.
So, yeah.
I have a workshop for my teaching license, so I have to leave at some point.
Oh,
Okay, well, in that case, we'll start with you, Erica. What have you been playing?
Oh no, I
And
have plenty of time.
I want
but-
you to I want you to give us the rundown on everything you've played since you were last on the podcast.
Oh,
oh
boy.
no.
Oh God.
We will be here all day.
Yeah, I don't think that that's possible. A lot of Planet Zoo. That's
Hell
been
yeah.
fun.
Planet Zoo's good.
Yeah,
It
I
is
don't
good.
have much to say about it except that I used to like Zoo Tycoon a lot, and this is similar in all the right ways. But no, what have I don't know. Should I talk about where I've been first or what I've been playing first?
You do you.
Yeah, whichever
Okay.
one you think makes more sense.
Okay, I'll talk about where I've been and why I've taken a long ass hiatus, which is mostly that my hands don't work the same anymore and I can't play video games the same way anymore. And because of it, I had a lot of weird put onto me only like by myself issues about it and not feeling like I don't know, not feeling the I don't know how to say this without sounding like it's like a huge pity party. Like I got very
it
depressed
sucks.
about the fact that like my hands don't work the way that my brain wants them to work all the time anymore. And
yeah.
you know, it sucks and it's hard. My thumbs lock up all the time. And I drop stuff constantly now. And now I have like all these big fat chunky pens that I've been buying because I can't hold things anymore.
Yeah.
But it's getting better. It's partially that not getting better in my hands, I should say. It's getting better for me to deal with it.
Mhm.
And that I don't feel like I am no longer capable of talking about games because
Yeah.
I can't play all of them anymore. It's okay. It's been fine. It's been something I had to get over a little bit, but I have a great therapist. I also have a great husband. And I just feel like I'm just learning to interact with games differently and play different types of games than I normally would. I can't do anything that requires an extreme amount of dexterity. And I think that previously I spent a lot of time being very upset about it. And also, I mean, I've talked about on the podcast before me playing Celeste with accessibility controls and like feeling like I really needed to justify my use of like an extra jump, which is really goofy and ridiculous. But also, you know, when you see some people writing things about how it's no longer the same game if you need to use accessibility controls, and you know that for some reason I shouldn't play it because I can't play things without, you know, a little extra help, which feels bad. And I used to take it a little more personally than I do now. And it's something that I'm working on, finding some I like remapping controls has been helpful. I've been trying to play fewer PC games because having my finger out for like the space bar and like retracting it in that way, my thumb is very painful over time and it locks up a lot. So I've been playing with controllers. The Switch has been like a life set, it's saving my life because I've been able to hold it in all kinds of different ways, just the way that console is set up. Like I've been able to kind of Oh, you know what? Let me talk about Superliminal. So I've been playing Superliminal and I played it. And I played the majority of it flat on my desk, like leaning over it with switching between using my thumbs on the sticks and like using my palms on it, which has been a weird but fun way to play that game. I don't know. It's something that I think that that not enough people take into account, that, maybe you might need accessibility controls for things other than this game's too hard. And, it's like, it's old news, but I remember getting tight about Cuphead back when Cuphead was out. And it seems like it's getting a lot better. It seems like The Last of Us 2 has some great accessibility controls from what I've heard, but I also super don't want to play that game for a lot of other reasons. But I'm glad to see that it seems like it's getting better, and it's only getting better. So hopefully, there will be more options for me in the future.
Has there been any particular accessibility feature that you found really valuable that you wish were in more games, or like in some game you have tried that like totally changed it for you?
Not yet. It's more like it's more having a variety for me, because if I start doing the same repetitive movements all the time, that's usually when my fingers decide they don't want to do what I want them to do anymore. Or, having the option to switch how I'm holding things is just really helpful at this point. Remapping is nice, but it's not always super helpful to me, just because it's still kind of more or less the same stuff. It's just on different buttons. But yeah, like for me, it's more that I'm finding new ways to hold stuff, and finding different, like, I don't know, I'm very interested in Allison's like chunky Joy-Cons now.
I was actually just going to ask
this is
about
a family
that.
podcast.
To be honest, I really want some of those chunky Joy-Cons also. Are they the,
I
the
love
furry
them
ones?
so much. So in case you don't follow me on Twitter, I bought Joy-Cons that are basically like a Pro controller, but for Joy-Cons.
Are they heavy?
No, they're fine.
Okay. Because I also like I find it easier to play with a controller than a mouse and keyboard right now, but my Xbox controllers are very heavy to me.
Oh, for sure. It might be heavy. The thing is that it might be heavy since like it makes the Switch a little bit more cumbersome, but
I can.
But if you can like prop it up or anything, it doesn't add too much heft.
I can kickstand it. It's fine.
Do they have analog sticks that are closer to like Xbox or PlayStation analog sticks?
Yeah. And that's
cool.
That's actually a big part of why I bought them, was because I was just really done with Joy-Con drift.
In playing more Switch when I fell off my exercising routine, but getting back to it next week and playing Switch a lot on the bike was like the joysticks on them, the analog sticks just don't feel good to me at all. And I realized that like maybe part of my ire around the Switch is that literally nothing about the like the buttons and the sticks feel good to me. The thing that I think is great about Switch controllers is probably one of the reasons why it's helpful for you, Erica, is that I like that you can take them off and then just like when you're playing in docked, you could just like wave them around and have them wherever, and like that's good. But I don't like the buttons or the sticks.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is that the ones I got, and I don't know if there's any others that are different. The ones that I got don't support motion control or like being separated from the Switch at all. So you have to play. And then they also don't have rumble. But it's like also I think I got mine for like $40 or So it's like cheaper than getting a set of Joy-Cons anyway. So
are they're the Hori ones?
Yeah.
Those are the ones I think they released as part of alongside Deus Ex Machina.
Yep.
And yeah, those seem good.
They're really good. I recommend them if you guys are like me, where I have like a Switch Pro controller, but I play my Switch most often undocked and handheld. So
yeah. Same. Also, because my TV is broken now.
Oh,
My cat broke it.
oh
I really want to run my computer tower because I've been getting heating issues that I'll talk about later on my desk instead. But I'm terrified that even though it's extremely heavy, my cat will knock it over and then motherboard will snap and it'll all be a mess.
They will find ways. How did your cat find a way, Erica?
Oh God, I don't even know. Really, it's like I saw it happen, but I guess it's a fragile TV, and he got scared by something outside and ran headfirst into the TV. And now there's like a giant stripe down the side where his head hit, and and it doesn't turn on. Like it turns on for like a second, and then it shuts right back off. So
the cat does?
The cat's okay.
The cat does, yeah. He's about as okay as he's ever been. So
okay, just want to leave
That's good, at
the
least.
listeners with that.
Man.
Yeah. No, he's not. Yeah, he's not. He didn't actually hurt himself, or I don't believe he did. He just kind of shook it off and then went about the rest of his day. And I went about being devastated that my expensive TV is now broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's
Oh, cats.
Cat was like ripped to the TV, but I'm different.
Yeah.
My
Exactly.
cat was laying on his window perch that's like, I guess like 3 normal windowsill height off the ground, 3 feet ish. And he I looked over and saw that most of his body was hanging off of the perch while he was asleep. And if I had been of more sound mind, I would have fixed that and moved him. But in my head, for some reason, I was just like, you shouldn't lay like that. And then I looked back at my computer, and then about 2 minutes later, I heard a loud thunk, and then he went.
Oh, no.
I was like, well, don't sleep like that. He was fine.
We have like kind of tall windowsills because we have a basement apartment, and so we have like those little half windows. I've sent Alex a picture of this before, but there's a lot of like scratch marks like around my windowsill from when that cat, the same one, misses all the time trying to get up, trying to make it to the windowsill. So there's a lot of like, a couple of claw marks in the paint under it now.
Wow. My cat that liked to climb up high was always very graceful. I don't think I saw him miss much until later in life he went blind, and then he was like, trying to take a swipe at the new dog and just not even close, not even the same direction. But he showed that dog who was boss. He's like, hey, I run things. I will attack you at a moment's notice. I might not hit you, but I will
sometimes
attack.
I'll hit you, and you won't want those sometimes to happen. So stay away.
Exactly.
From me.
Yeah. The dog just wanted to play, but the cat no.
That's so good.
Yeah.
But Erica,
Yes.
did Superliminal also have cat scratch marks all up the walls and windows?
No, there are some cool windows in that game though.
Should it be called Super Window?
There's not that many.
Did you briefly turn on your audio thing, Andre?
No. Am I just going robot-y?
No, it sounded like you put on the auto tuner.
No, I just talk like that now.
Yeah. So Superliminal. Have any of you played it? Because it came out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
no, but I really would like to play it. It looks really good.
Yeah. It came out last year. I didn't hear about it because I was wrapped up with work. Which unemployed now, so I can play video games again. So that's fun.
Club.
Hey. So Superliminal I thought it was really fun. It's very much like if Soma and Portal had a baby, and it was not as good as either of those two games, but
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Is it scary?
It can be a little lightly spooky, but it's not really like scary.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking more like the beginning of Soma, not really the the rest of the game, or less of the rest of the game. But yeah, it was more that I thought the puzzles in that game are really fun, and like working with like optical illusions and, you know, and perspective and all of that was really, really fun. I really like the way that they vary it throughout the game, but the story is kind of tired in that game. Sure. It's like, it didn't really bother me. It was kind of more like, oh, it's one of these, you know, but like,
aren't we all kind of tired? Like, give the game a break. Come on.
Yeah, like, and you know what? Honestly, the fact that I had so much fun with the puzzles in that game and figuring them out and trying to have, you know, that's my shit, you know, like I like that kind of stuff a lot. So I was kind of willing to look beyond the really sleepy story that was going on in the middle of it, but it was just more that it was like, oh, okay, all right, we're doing this, I guess. And there's also like a lot of the beginning of that game makes you think it really wants to be Portal in the most aggressive way. There's like a fake GLaDOS kind of voice going on through a lot of it, and it's just really like, okay, all right, I see.
Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, like is that really the puzzle game that you're like, you really want to draw direct comparisons to? Because it really was very, very strongly trying to give you Portal vibes.
Because Quantum Conundrum totally nailed it.
Well, that was at least people who worked on Portal, right?
And
but
also, I think
I played a game called Light Matter, and that game was like making direct references to Portal, and like even had like a Portal Sentry in it, and just also, like it's not as good.
Portal still, Portal has aged very well. I think I'm not taking anything away from Portal, but I think a lot of the like humor and writing in that game, as soon as you remove it from the context of that game, even when I hear people reference it, like who aren't even, they're just saying it out loud, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm just.
Yeah, and I don't know why it works so well in the game, and then you like hear somebody else saying, you're like, no.
But I don't ever need to hear the end credits song of Portal ever again in my life again.
Well,
and
I feel like that was tired back, like there was a point where like my friends in college and we were like singing it around together.
Yeah,
and it was like that was in like 2011 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
2012. So it's like it's done. But I mean, I think it still works in the game.
The cake is back. Everything is cake. The cake.
God.
Yeah, that's true. I will say that the dovetailing of that with that meme has been very funny. But like when you go to, last year was the last PAX that will ever happen probably. But like even at last year's PAX, you know, I would hear people say the cake is a lie out loud as I walked past groups. And I was just like, stop it. Don't do that. Play something else.
but so Erica, I have a question for you. Because I also finished Superliminal probably sometime last year. Mm-hmm. Did you also find the puzzles incredibly repetitive?
I felt like they switched it up enough for me eventually. Like, I hear you that, it can get really repetitive, especially at the beginning. I think the first half of that game is much weaker than the rest of it. But it's also very short too, that I feel like it kind of didn't overstay its welcome because it's only like 2 or 3 hours long. But yeah, no, I hear you on that. But I did feel like the ones that were more creative, or the ones that like I didn't get immediately how to do it, and now I just need to line things up right, you know, like I'm thinking specifically of the one with the fan and that ramp and the apple. So like that one, you know, it took me a little longer to do that one, and I didn't figure out immediately what it was that I was supposed to do, and so I kind of found some of that stuff interesting, and the way that you interact with some of the things start changing later on, and I don't know, to me it didn't bother me.
Fair enough.
I assume it bothered you, would you? What are your takes on it?
I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a bad game, but it didn't blow my socks straight off of my feet onto the wall, through the wall, into the neighbor's apartment. Like it was fine.
That's a high standard to have for a game, Alex, though.
Yeah, you're right.
Has any game ever done that to you?
Yes, my neighbors do not like me.
Yeah, but like,
that's
they
why
start hearing like something hit the wall, and they're like, "Oh, here we go again." Alex is playing games. Oh no!
Yeah,
shit, Trackmania is playing again.
Yeah, like I think with Superliminal, it was repetitive, and it does this, but I feel like the fact that they're shoving that specific story down your throat the whole time, that it like that message, I just was like, oh, all right, whatever, just let me do the puzzle.
What's his name? Dr. Pierce or something? I can't even remember.
Yeah. That I was just not here for that at all. But I also
but even if the puzzles are repetitive, it seems like such a cool concept with the kind of perspective shifts and everything.
Yeah, and I really had fun with it too. You know, I went back to do some of like the collectible things that there are to find, just because I enjoyed messing with perspective in that game. It's fun. That stuff is fun. Just ignore the whole story.
Sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of ignoring the story,
what?
I don't. Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Oh no, really?
I don't know. I made the segue. I had to follow through it.
I mean, there's not really even a story to ignore in Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Nailed it.
Which is a game that I checked out briefly last year, did not particularly enjoyed for like a little bit, and then quickly fell off of. But a friend of in my kind of gaming friend group, there's one, we played Wildlands quite a bit, which has a horrifically bad and problematic story, which is awful and everyone hated, but it was also a 4-player co-op open world shooter, which is something that is fun to play with a group. So we played it, and just basically skipped all the cutscenes and turned the dialogue off. But one of the dudes in the group has been wanting to play Breakpoint for a long time, and I was like, it's not as good. It's not very good. The gameplay's not very good, because largely, like, I don't know if anyone remembers, but they put loot in that game, which was
like every Ubisoft game at this point.
Yes, and it made it basically like The Division, but with a different map. Like
every Ubisoft game at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, at least like Far Cry has a different tone and it's first person, you know, whereas this
like every Tom Clancy game at this point.
Yes, this was like more or less like at launch, it was like The Division. I mean, Breakpoint could have been a Division sequel. Not a very good one, but it could have been a Division sequel. And so, but it was free this weekend, and then it's on sale for a bunch off. So I was like, fine, I'll download it on PC and play some with everybody. So they actually did a cool thing in that game now where they have a mode called immersive mode that you can turn on from the start. And like the first thing it does is pop this menu. And what immersive mode does is it takes away all of the loot shit. So nothing has a gear score anymore. You just pick up a gun and it's a gun. And you can still do certain upgrades to it and you can put different attachments on it. But it's much more like Modern Warfare than Breakpoint was originally, where every gun has a stat line. And then they're just different. They feel different and they work differently. And it's way more fun that way because I don't care. I go into places and fight guys. I pick up a pair of pants that is cosmetic only. And I get a new blueprint for a gun that now I can pull this gun at the shop whenever I want. And what's cool is you can play it. So I have two of the friends that I'm playing with really, really, really love the like oh, I got a green gun, I got a blue gun, oh, it's a purple P90. They love that shit. So they can play with it set to on. So they're picking up loot and stuff, while the other friend that I'm playing with and I, who don't want to do that, can have it off. And so for us, then it just is like a Ghost Recon game. And it's pretty cool. When you remove that stuff, at least for me, the game becomes a lot more enjoyable, because it's more about like just the combat and setting up a gun build rather than running around and picking up loot like every other video game that Ubisoft and anymore like anyone makes.
But like being able to turn that off just shows how unnecessary the system
I agree,
might be.
for sure. And they already turned it off for PvP. So I think because they have a PvP mode that's kind of like the Crucible and Destiny, where like they turn off all the gear score stuff. So I think they just ported that over and used those base stat lines for the PvE. I don't have any idea like how the math works out on it. Like if my friend has a legendary P90 and I have my no gear score P90, I don't know how it would line up if we both shot the guns side by side, but it doesn't matter, especially in Ghost Recon, because your damage stat on a gun could be the lowest in the game. If you hit someone in the head, it still kills them, because Ghost Recon is like the realistic one, which is not true, but it's in terms of its damage model, like you shoot enemies and they go down in like 2 shots. So, and if you hit them in the head, it's always 1. So the stats don't really matter that much anyway.
What if you shoot him in the booty?
I don't know. I think they probably have quite a bit of padding there.
I mean, but in Medal of Honor on the PS2, when you shot them in the balls, they like grabbed their crotch and then they fell over. So I would hope that in 2020 we have that kind of technology still.
I don't know. I'll try to take some more crotch shots. I haven't really focused on that. I'm playing as a sharpshooter, so I mostly aim for the head, but which is not how real sharpshooters operate. But
yeah, I've played Sniper Elite. I know how real sharpshooters operate.
But yeah, I don't know. It was fun. We played it for like 4 hours last night, and that it has a cool map. And so if you don't know, they traded their extraordinarily offensive drug cartel storyline that got the entire country of Bolivia justifiably upset at Ubisoft for a narrative where it's like an island off the coast of South America, but where it is really doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with the land masses around it, where there's like Steve Jobs types. It's called Aroa, not Aurora, Aroa.
Is Wayne from Wayne's World there? Whenever
your character, I'm playing as the masculine avatar, whenever your character says Aroa, it sounds like they're trying to say Aurora, but they can't put the word together. And it makes me laugh every time because their voice is like this. And they have like, it's like just a tiny bit of Southern twang to their accent. And they're like, we came to Aurora. You're really trying, buddy.
Can't quite get it out.
Can't quite get the second R in there. I get it. Yeah, I don't know. That game is structured so weird because they set it up like it's going to have this big narrative with John Bernthal's character as the bad guy and stuff. But like I played the opening part to get to the first social hub, which that game has, and then stopped playing. So I could play with my friends, and then I jumped on. They had been playing for a little bit, so I jumped into their game. It just dropped me in the world next to them, and I didn't see a single cutscene or like real bit of dialogue other than like, we're trying to take this encampment. That was like the only thing anyone said for like 4 hours. So I have no idea. And we were ostensibly doing missions. I don't know. Like there was a faction meter going up. So like, I don't know what the deal is with the missions in that game, but it's certainly fun to just like, it's like this huge map that's just littered with little spots to fight people. So we would just get in cars and drive to the next place where there were people and then kill them and then go to the next place with people and kill them. And along the way, pick up new pants. So it was fun to do that and drink a few beers and chat and stuff. And then at the end of the night, after 2 of them went to bed, another buddy and I did some more like sneaking intensive missions that were actually pretty intense, where if you got seen, then they would kill the civilians that they had captive. So yeah, I don't know. It's the immersive mode stuff is definitely, if you already have that game because you made the mistake of buying it last year, and want to and like might want to try it again. I think the immersive mode stuff is really interesting. They also added the ability to just totally change like everything about the experience of playing that game. Like you can make it so it at launch, it had the ability to turn off mission markers. So you had to use descriptions like, oh, it's tallest mountain at the top of the tallest mountain on the island. And then you had to figure out where that was. So you could do that or turn on objective markers. So they still have that, but now you can do things like you can have a full UI that gives you a mini map, or all the way down to no UI at all, where you're not getting anything but like not even, I think you can even turn off the ammo count in your gun. You can change the difficulty so that its enemies detect you faster and deal more damage. You can change the tactical difficulty so it takes the number of weapon slots you have down, the number of bandages you have down, and like whether it throws away ammo that's left over in the magazine when you reload. So there's all these different settings, and they only affect your experience. They don't affect your co-op partners at all. So they just have done a very good job, I think, in allowing you to customize how, like, you can even customize whether you can get new weapons at bivouacs, which are the little encampments you make to kind of like prep in the field and set up for missions. You can make it so like when you can only pull new weapons and vehicles when you're at one of the social hubs, or you can set it that you can just get them at the bivouacs like you can in the normal gear score mode. So I think it's neat that they did all that and kind of like made it so customizable.
Ubi is really adept at taking a game that started pretty rough and then putting a lot of time into it afterwards.
Yeah, I think their games have really long tails because like I haven't purchased it yet, but I'll probably pick it up in this sale. I'm playing the free weekend. But we're having enough fun, and like it has like raids and stuff at the high end. And so we would like to see that stuff, and it's fun to explore. So I think that's how their games work, is they sell well on over a longer period of time than most games from most publishers. And like they're still doing live events. Like there's a cool one right now where if you do all these new missions that they added, I think they're new anyway, you get a laser designator where you can like designate a missile to strike and stuff, which is like materially cool in that game. So yeah, I think they just do a good job of supporting stuff for a long time.
All right. Well, let's see what next on our list. I'm going to give Pat gamer's choice for what he wants to talk about next.
Well, I think we should move from one ghost to another because it's the other thing that I have the most opinions on.
Trackmania?
There are ghosts.
You are racing ghosts in Trackmania. It's true.
And honestly, Trackmania is more, Alex mentioned more Trackmania for stuff that he'd been playing, and I played more Trackmania as well. That game's very good. I don't have a lot of thoughts. We could talk about it more if Alex has thoughts. But in terms of Ghosts of Tsushima, that is it's a pretty cool game. I played about I think like 5 hours of it yesterday, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. When it opened, I also finished Last of Us earlier this week, which we'll talk about more in a spoiler capacity later on. But like, despite coming away with pretty negative feelings on the story of Last of Us, like that game's production value and like just the little things in it are so good. Like little things like when you're next to someone else and you walk up to a piece of cover, the way that the characters like reach over each other to like take cover and stuff. And just like when you go prone, the way it feels to move around, it's that game, Last of Us, is just like so well made from that perspective. So starting Ghosts of Tsushima was funny because I was like, oh, I'm playing a video game. Oh, it opens on like a scene with a bunch of samurai charging invading Mongolian armies on a beach, and it's like almost isometric in its camera angle as you're fighting them, and you're just like mashing the square. I turned it up to the highest difficulty, and you're just kind of in that opening sequence, you have no UI, you're just kind of mashing the square button to kill like dynasty warriors, tons of Mongolian troops. And I just was like, maybe this game's bad, because it's not very good. But it's kind of rough in its opening, hour maybe. But then once you kind of get into the open world, it feels significantly better. And I think it's very much an Assassin's Creed, like very, very much. If you like Assassin's Creed, and not even necessarily like the newest Assassin's Creed, it's kind of like playing like old Assassin's Creed.
You're a fan of those games though, right, Pat?
Me? Yeah, for sure.
You're kind of selling me on this, to be honest.
I honestly think you would probably like it, Allison. It's because it's super, super, super video gamey in every single way. Like, I really can't drive that home enough, because it's like it's so funny to me that they do so much to reference Kurosawa, who I have heard like more modern takes on some of his works to maybe not be as positive in terms of like some political elements of his films. But like, I watched Seven Samurai Thursday, kind of waiting for it to unlock. And like, that film is so perfect in so many ways. And the idea that I don't want to sound like I'm bashing on Sucker Punch here, because I think that this, I should reiterate, I'm having a lot of fun with this game. I think it's really good. But the idea that this game is like evoking Kurosawa in any way is kind of ridiculous.
It's a big, like, again, another more big shoes to fill. Like,
yeah, it's like if Rockstar put like a Godfather mode or something in GTA.
Oh, you mean Godfather the game?
Well,
the Godfather game.
I mean, that's kind of a good example, right? Like, the Godfather game, which is actually better than you would think it is absolutely not approaching the quality level of one of the greatest films of all time, right? Like, come on. And the same can be said of Ghost of Tsushima. So I think it's kind of funny. Were I someone at that studio, I would have been like, hey, maybe we shouldn't call it Kurosawa mode, because maybe that's punching a little bit above.
Well, in Japan, they call black and white movies Kurosawa, because Kuro is black and Sawa is probably white or some shit. So,
I'm guessing that the people who made the decision at Sucker Punch to call this mode that probably heard that and then were like thinking.
I wish I could claim that joke as my own. As someone on Twitter, I don't have the actual originator, but still,
it's a very good one.
It's too good to not to leave on the table.
It's because, and it's not even, as I'm playing more of it, there's actually, like, I would say genuinely good story stuff in there. So one of the things, the way the game structures, it has like main quests and side quests, and they call them like sagas and tales, I want to say. And the tales, the tales, it's like
miles per hour.
You've got a sword. The sword is made of steel.
Okay.
Is it cold?
Ghost
Trails of Cold
Tsushima.
Steel. This is Trails of Cold Steel 4.
I hate this.
Ghost of Tsushima and Knuckles.
Anyway, the tales are like, they're side quests, but like the one that there's a archer character you meet, and it's like, it's the most video game stuff, right? So the game kind of opens, and I'm not going to talk about any spoilers, but I don't even know how I would spoil it, because the story is so thin so far that there's not really much to spoil. But there's a thing you got to go do, obviously, and there's these characters that are like, oh, you need to recruit these characters. And it's clear that they're going for like Seven Samurai kind of like, oh, you have to recruit your samurai cadre to
build up the Avengers. Yeah.
But of course, it's like, one of the people you have to recruit is a master archer. Where do you think you're going to get your bow? So it's like, oh, this one does this. This one's going to give you this thing, and it's sort of silly.
Is the archer played by Jeremy Renner?
No.
Is it Big the Cat?
One thing I will say is, on that note, is that all of the voice cast for both the English and Japanese, I'm playing with Japanese dialogue, which is weird because it's synced to the English VO, the lip syncing, which is bad. That's bad. That was a bad decision that they made.
Is it voiced by John Benjamin?
No. what I was going to say is at least all of the English and Japanese cast is from my understanding, they're either Japanese or Japanese American actors at the very least. So at least they weren't casting white people in the roles of Japanese characters.
Yeah.
And the performances are very good too, at least in Japanese.
Apparently the Japanese localization is like amazing too.
Yeah.
That is like, it's gotten pretty good reception here in Japan. At least from the mainstream sources like Famitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff I saw was mostly about the localization and like, oh, they used old style Japanese really well, and they nothing sounds weird, which they kind of tend to expect in American Western games coming to Japan. It's uncommon for there to be a super great localization. And so I think this game has gotten a lot of passes on some of the more like historical stuff. I saw one that was like, I don't know about the history stuff, but the localization is good.
I have largely seen, I think it's interesting, and I'm certainly not qualified to speak on it. And I'm in no way making a bad faith argument here. I have seen a lot of non-Japanese and non-Japanese American people criticizing the history elements. Because there's things like there's haiku in this game. Haiku was not invented at the time that this game takes place. There are katana in this game, which were not invented at the time this game takes place. So like, it certainly is not fully historically accurate. I wonder, it's an interesting, really difficult to navigate conversation, I think, because like historical inaccuracy is probably to be expected from this game to some extent. And so I think it's interesting the way that like the Japanese press has responded to it versus the way that some press here has been really critical of those aspects. And I certainly wouldn't say anyone in the equation is wrong to be critical or not critical in those ways, but it is a really interesting, larger critical conversation around the authenticity.
You look at like Assassin's Creed and the shit they pull with like historical stuff. And
I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to just
laugh about it. So
I don't just want to equate like, to some extent, this is more recent, and what this game is talking about historically has had, I think, a more material impact on modern history, perhaps, than going to ancient Greece. Not that there haven't been ripples through time, of course, but like I think people are slightly more disconnected from that. So I can understand why I don't want to just say that those two things are the same, but at the same time, I think there's a point to be made there as well.
I mean, you look at like any of the Assassin's Creed games and the characters they have, and
particularly the Assassin's Creed games that look at more recent history in some place like here, which it's still not, Ubisoft is not an American company, and they were making games about American history. So I think it's important to be critical, but I also think it's important to kind of like look at appropriation as a more holistic thing too. And I wouldn't necessarily, it's such a challenge because like you could argue that because it was a largely white studio that made this game, American white studio that made this game, that it's appropriative for them to even choose this subject at all. But I would say that I think that it's done with reverence and respect. In some ways, it's problematic the ways in which it was done with reverence and respect, because it is showing a reverence and respect for a feudal system that was horrific for the people living under it, which is a challenge that I don't think they were considering when they wrote this game. Like, I think they're playing into the samurai fantasy, which is very different than the samurai reality, which is like people with brutally keeping peasants under their thumb. However, it does still make nods to that. Like the story that I've now kind of found very interesting is about this archery teacher. And if you want some light spoilers, skip ahead 5 minutes, or if you don't want light spoilers, skip ahead 5 minutes. But this is very early in the game. You learn that he's a samurai archer who took a peasant on as a student, and she ultimately turns on him. And the characters have some frank discussions. Like the rest of the story is kind of about her helping the Mongols to take this village, and you're kind of working against her. And it's a pretty drawn out story. It's actually kind of cool how much time they give to this thing that you would think would be kind of a minor side story. It's probably a couple hours of missions that you do around it. And they do talk about like the reasons why a peasant would revolt against like a samurai teacher and stuff. And they try to kind of have those conversations, but I think this is one of the places where they saw a movie like Seven Samurai, which initially appears to be a film about samurai saving the poor people, when really what it's about is how samurai are as guilty for the plight of peasants and farmers at the time as the bandits that they're fighting. And the ending of that movie is like one of the main samurai characters saying, we didn't win this, the peasants won. And like, that's kind of the point. And it seems like they saw that, said, wow, that's powerful, but didn't necessarily quite grasp the message there. And instead are just transposing that idea onto their story rather than really working to understand that. Because at the end of the day, you're still then, after the mission's done, going to a gift altar in a town where all the peasants have gathered their possessions for you to take from them to like help your quest, which is like weird. And so it's that stuff is like tricky, but I think the thing that makes this game one that I think people who like Assassin's Creed style games should play is just that it plays super, super well. And none of that stuff is, it's at times you kind of like scratch your head. It doesn't feel icky though. Like they're not making it's not like playing The Last of Us, whether you liked it or not, it feels icky to play in a lot of parts. Ghost of Tsushima is not even like, it's not in that universe. It's very much a fun times, we're going to kill these samurai, or we're going to kill these invaders kind of thing. It's not you're going to be a samurai kind of thing. It's not like that hard to wrap your head around by any means. I think there's deeper themes there that are worth being critical of, but ultimately it's fun. And it's the kind of game where like you got to find the hot springs so you can get a health boost, because resting in the hot springs increases your health. And so that part is interesting. And then I also think probably the thing that is maybe a cut, no pun intended, a cut above like similar games is it's not quite a Breath of the Wild, but it does have pretty profound moments where there's not anything there. Like you'll see a bell in the distance and you'll go, oh, I should go check that out because it looks cool. And you get there and it just looks cool. And maybe you take your flute out and you play a tune and like take a screenshot or something. But there's a lot of that in the world of just really, whether they're tragic or poignant or interesting little details that don't give you anything for finding them. And I'm finding that to be like a nice break in the action. And then the combat is very much like you press square to swing your sword, you press circle to dodge, and you press L1 to block or parry. And it can be hard if you're playing on a harder difficulty, but it is not like a Dark Souls-y animation priority thing. It's very much more like an Assassin's Creed, like do your counters, do your attacks, sort of thing. And it's good. The combat's cool. You get to do standoffs. If you don't sneak in, you get to do these standoffs where you call out one of their warriors, and then it's a little mini game where you have to hold down triangle and like wait for them to attack, and then you release it and you kill them in one strike. And you can get upgrades where then you can like do it to multiple people, and that's pretty fun and satisfying. So I don't know. I think if you're looking for that kind of game, which I very much was, it's worth picking up.
I do plan to pick it up. I'm planning to stream it if I can get everything together and working. I'm most of the way there. So look for that in like a week-ish.
Yeah. I think it's good for that kind of thing. I have found it to be the most clippable game I've played in a while in terms of wanting to like hit the share button and like actually use that feature to upload little clips, because I get into fights sometimes where I'm like, wow, that was really cinematic. I didn't get hit at all. And it looked really cool. And you can like swipe right on the touchpad, and he does the like flick the blood off and sheathe the sword thing. So it's definitely a cool like streaming and clipping game, I think, in that way. And I think as long as you go in understanding that it's like, it almost feels like a PS3 game that never came out. Not that it looks like a PS3 game. The character models are a little at times, but the environments are gorgeous. But that's that methodology of game design for sure. It feels kind of derivative and old in that sense, but also it's a formula that's fun and works. So I think that's okay.
Sick. Speaking of sick, super hot. So it kind of is like, it's like a mind sickness. So you have to like go in and like mind control delete to get rid of the sickness. I don't know. I mean, my segues aren't on point this week. I'm sorry.
So Alex, you played some of Superhot mind control delete. Did anybody else take a look at it?
I took a look at what you guys were sharing, but that was it.
Oh yeah, we were sharing clips. That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, that game's pretty sick. If I had one word to describe it, it would be sick. It is more Superhot, which is cool.
How far did you get into it, Pat?
I did the first couple of nodes. I got through the first like map, all of the nodes on that map. So when I say couple of nodes, I mean like I got through all the node 1 and node 2 stuff, and then I have like a button to go to the next map, and that's where I took a pause on it.
Okay, so I'm a little bit further than you.
Yeah,
because I finished node 3, so now I'm on node 4. What do you think of it?
I like it a lot. I don't think it is like, whoa, this is going to be my game of the year by any means. Largely because it's more Superhot. It kind of falls into some of the pitfalls that I was a little concerned about, but it's still really cool. Like Superhot's just a really awesome formula, and I think it does interesting things. Like, I don't know that there'd be a better way for them to deliver more Superhot than this. And so I think that's very
directly
cool.
Into my brain.
I like the way that it. Sorry, go ahead.
I was asking you, do they add like enough to it to make it its whole, like a whole other game?
It's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't.
It's more Superhot 1.5 than Superhot 2, if that's what you're asking.
But part of it is, and they would be able to figure this out better than me. I don't think you can make a Superhot 2. No. Like I don't think
it'd be hard.
It's a formula that is so simple, at its core. And so the main changes, what it does is, one, it gives you health instead of just an immediate death. So you have you can take a few hits, but then also you get these maps that are like kind of ASCII looking, like maps where you're clicking on different nodes to go into them. And then a node will have like maybe 5 or 6 levels in it. And in between the levels, your health doesn't refill normally, but you find like new bonuses. So it'll be like, okay, you finished the first level, and now you get to pick between always starting with a katana or refilling your health. And then you'll play another 2 levels, and then it'll be like, okay, well, now do you want your thrown objects to explode, or do you want to get an extra health?
And so something you can do is it's kind of Binding of Isaac in that what you're doing is you're collecting like things that you could potentially pick up later. So like you're building this like list of things that could show up.
And they call them hacks.
Yeah, they call them hacks. So it's like, okay, now, like Pat said, I have the start with katana, or I have the thing where I throw a throwable object and it explodes. Like that's something you can pick up. So now that becomes an option that shows up like in the middle of a run.
Now my gunshots pierce through multiple enemies, sort of thing. And it's cool. Those hacks are cool, but I don't feel that they fundamentally change the way you play the game.
I disagree.
You've changed I would say if you're getting like, if they're really making you feel like they're changing the way you play the game, then that's Superhot too, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think I've been slightly disappointed at that element of it, I guess.
I think there are some that change the way you totally approach stuff. Like there is the rush ability that you get now.
So those are a little different because those are like packages, I think they call them, where you actually those do change a lot for sure. You like pick those at the start though. And so like I only have 2. I have the health up one where you start with 3 health, or I can start with 2 health and gain an ability to charge people and punch them basically. And from like pretty far away, I would say those are closer to like, when I saw those, I was like, maybe this is like a Superhot 2. So I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and like the actual grenade, you throw throwables and it explodes. That one definitely changes things because suddenly the most deadly weapon in the game are like cards and cups that you're throwing at people.
I think I've seen that one time since I got it. So
you have to be careful with that one because very much like a grenade, even if you throw it far away, it can hurt you.
Yeah, that's part of why I avoided it. Yeah.
But there's other ones like that like they change the way you approach situations. But yeah, no, I'm, like I said, a little bit further than you, and I was, super hot on it for the first map. The second map, I'm less hot on it because I think the way that they're kind of throwing you into maps isn't always very well balanced. I've had multiple times where I've lost a health like right off of the bat because there was nothing I could do. Like there was a guy right on me in the middle of his attack animation. I don't have enough time to look around to see if there's a weapon. If I punch him, I'm going to get shot by the guy next to him.
Yeah.
If I move, he's just going to hit me with his attack. Like there's no way to not lose a heart there. And it's like, that's been really frustrating because it's like, well, okay, well, I have 2 health in this case. Like, what can I possibly do? I just have to go the rest of the run with 1 health, and it sucks.
And I think too, like it's not bad, but they have like 5 or 6 environments, at least on those. I don't know if they introduce more as you go along, but
not really. Well, there's the club. I don't know if you got the club.
Yeah. There's like 5 or 6 environments, and you're always on one of those maps. And then they have spawn doors basically. So what it randomizes is like the start state and like I think where some of the objects are. And then enemies just kind of randomly come in different doors. So even though it's different for each level, it doesn't feel super, super different. No pun intended. It still feels kind of repetitive. And the repetitive action of playing Superhot is pretty cool. So like that's not meant as total condemnation, but for me, I think kind of the thing that I have found, and maybe you're forced into this more later on, but the reason I say that I don't feel like the hacks fundamentally changed the game for me that much is because the best thing to do still is to get a good gun and then shoot everyone. And because of the fact that these levels aren't curated, there aren't levels where there are no guns, at least that I've encountered. There are always opportunities to get a gun pretty quick in the level because the randomization almost always spawns somebody with a gun. They do some cool things that I can't even remember if they're in the original Superhot, where there's enemies that will, one, have weapons that you can't get from them. They're like a part of them.
Yeah, like you know how the characters in Superhot are red and the weapons they're carrying are black. In that case, they're just all red. There's like even if like the gun is basically melded to them.
Like
Mega Man,
which is kind of cool. Because that's tactically it's like, okay, well, I can't get a gun off of that one. And then some of them also you can only hit them in certain parts. Like they'll be like the same white color as the environment except for their left leg. So to kill them, you have to hit them in the leg. And that's kind of cool. That's interesting tactical thing to deal with. But at the end of the day, it doesn't feel materially different to me than playing Superhot. And maybe there are more hacks down the line that are more like that grenade hack where they do make you play it very differently. But it's a really nice companion, I think, to the original game. If you played the original game and you're like, holy shit, I want to play more of that, and I want it to be more random and replayable. I think this does serve that pretty well. I think if you're new to Superhot, you should still go play the first Superhot, and then if you want,
I feel like the first one is so self-contained in a good way.
Yes,
that
and curated too.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
I saw an interesting comparison in a review that I read. I can't remember exactly where it was from, but sort of saying that like the original Superhot feels like a puzzle game as you're playing it.
Oh, totally.
Whereas this one feels more like an action game, not because it's any faster. I mean, it's still the same rules, but it just because it's less, the levels aren't bespoke. They don't have that same puzzly feel to them. Because like you're saying, Alex, they're not designed to be puzzles. They're randomized. So it's more like I mean, yes, there's thinking you have to do, but it's really like the best skill you can have in mind control delete is the ability to like read lead times on bullets so you can hit someone while they're moving horizontally. That's by far the most useful skill.
And scenario mitigation, being like,
yeah,
kind of like looking at risk and being like, okay, so who should I go for right now? Because who's going to fuck me up the most?
Cool.
One thing I will say that is a really good feature they added is because you're going to run into situations where there's like a friggin' billion people on screen. Not actually a billion, but like a significant amount of dudes coming at you. And they don't make any sound other than if they're reloading their guns. So sometimes you'll just have someone spawn behind you and you won't know it. But if you get attacked from the back, it won't do damage. It will just say, it'll just flash and then show you who did it and say, watch your back.
Yeah.
Which I think, which I think is nice.
Yeah. I think that's really good. And also the music in the disco level absolutely whips.
It's fucking awesome.
Okay, this is again also making me go from I'll play it sometime to time to play it.
I will say it's not disco music that they play.
No, it's like a dubstep thing with the Superhot guy doing like stuff over top.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to play that.
Like jagged guitar, like Nine Inch Nails guitars and stuff. It's very good.
Yeah, it's very stupid, and I love that too.
Yeah, it's evoking the club scene in John Wick for sure. Like it's trying to do a little like a thing musically that's similar to that, but also heavier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a cool game. I think if you own Superhot, at least on Steam, I think it's true of other platforms too. You get it for free. So I would say it's the kind of thing where like I will probably keep it installed for a very long time because I'll go, oh, I want to play some Superhot, and then I'll drop in and play a few levels. I am not going to push through it and try to like finish it because it would be, I think, repetitive to play hours and hours and hours of it. But it's certainly more Superhot.
And for what it's worth, it does have some story in it.
Yeah, so far what I've seen is pretty thin.
Yeah, I don't say good story, but it's got some story.
It has cool. The beginning is cool because it's like it takes actually a bit of a kind of a long time for one of these games to get to the roguelite part because you start off and it's like you were supposed to have you won. Why are you here again? And then it like does a bunch of super hottie, like you play a bunch of levels and then it like does its thing where it tries to like do a mindfuck thing. It's kind of predictable because it's Superhot, so it doesn't have the same amount of like, whoa, this is wild as the first game. But then eventually it drops you in. It's like, fine, if you want to play more, have these, and it gives you the hacks, which is kind of clever and fun.
You know what is wild? I don't own Superhot because I played it on my friend's. Like I did Steam Share with a friend and played his copy. But I have Mind Control Delete in my Steam library now.
Oh,
even though I'm no longer connected to that friend's Steam Share.
It's probably because you played it. It's probably not reading. It's not reading your ownership. It's reading if you've played it.
Which is not what they were saying though.
I know.
But I mean, hey,
Loophole.
I wonder
That's the real Superhot.
if it's not if you've played it, but that if you play a game on Steam through Steam Share, it flips whatever Switch tells developers that you owned the game or something. Like whatever they're keying the Superhot delivery on. For me, it was weird because when it launched, it didn't show up in my library. I had to go to the store page and hit play now to get it to install. So it definitely has a little some quirks for sure.
Yeah, but it's still
I think
cool
that was
they're...
like a timing thing, but yeah,
could be. But yeah, I don't know. I think if you're new to Superhot, I would say play the first game. And then if you want to play more, then this is a good
Superhot VR
additional way. And I guess eventually you do unlock a mode, in this game that's like a wave-based thing where they give you new hacks every certain number of waves, which is kind of cool if you just want to play it a bunch. It's not as cool as Superhot VR, I'll say. Superhot VR is dope, like super, super, super cool. Unfortunately short, but super, super, super cool.
All right. Well, next, what's next? Where's my list? Let's go to Alex.
Hi.
Before I forget to talk to Alex about games, let's hear what Alex played.
Yeah. So if y'all remember, how long ago was it? A few weeks now that we were talking about the iOX 2.
I forgot.
Ha 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 ha. But yeah, we were talking about iOX 2 and specifically just like 5 or so games that came out of it that seemed kind of cool, seemed interesting and worth talking about. And one of those was Before I Forget. Give me 1 second. Sorry, having to juggle some stuff around.
This was some like A plus comedy work I was doing here, and not a single one of you gave a sincere chuckle.
I made so many Slipknot puns when we talked about this last time that I have to just abstain from jokes and laughing at them for this sequence because I can't keep doing that to Alex.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, Before I Forget, first heard about it from the Indie Obscura thing, the iOX 2. So again, shout out to Morgan and co for putting that together. But the game itself was created by a studio called Threefold Games, I think. And they're primarily a 2-person team. The team is Chella Ramanan and Claire Morwood. They're these 2 awesome women devs out of England. So show them some support. But the game itself is like purely 100% all about its narrative. So if I were to give it a genre by like modern standards, I guess you'd call it a walking sim. But it also feels weird to try and compare it to other games you might call walking sims. Like there's stuff it definitely reminds me of, like parts of it will remind me of Gone Home, or another part might remind me of Edith Finch. I can think of some parts that remind me of like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and something else is kind of like The Unfinished Swan. But it's got elements of all of those, but it's still totally unique even among all of them. So like for one, there's nothing at all fantastical about it. Like there's no metaphor at play. It's all just kind of depicting real life, which is kind of unique, especially for those kinds of games, which love to wrap themselves in like, you know, really bigger than life moments and mechanics that make the world all crazy. Like this one just doesn't. But so in depicting its real life, what it's depicting is that of an older woman who has dementia. So the thing about that subject matter and like games that focus on mental health in general is that, you know, like the tone can sometimes be a little rough. Like it can be a bit tough, like hard to sit through, or like it's generally pretty dour. But Before I Forget is not really dour, interestingly. Like it has a lot of heart, it has some humor in it, like it's got a pretty decent amount of what I'd call hope even by the end. And the thing about the story is that it never feels like gratuitous. It's not a tearjerker. It's not emotionally manipulative. It easily could have felt cheesy or pandering, but it's not. Like it's just sharing the main character, whose name is Sunita. It's sharing her story, and it does it really well. So, like, it handles its subject matter in a really even-handed way when sharing this like personable and like believable story. But it's also hard to talk about anything directly because the game itself is only about an hour like to get through. So, and it's worth going in blind because it's just a worthwhile story to go through. But to kind of talk around it, like about the story beats or any of the mechanics or anything, and just kind of talk about what it's trying to convey, it has this really good sense of discovery. Like, you're looking at and interacting with objects in the world, like you would in a Gone Home or something like that. But you look at them and you can mouse over them and you can see like, it'll be like, oh, I can interact with this. But you look at it and it has like no detail. It'll be like you're picking up a piece of paper and it's completely blank. Things that you would expect to be nice and colorful have no color. They're just nothing. But as you pick them up and inspect them, the details start to fill in, and it adds color to the object. It adds context to the object. Like if it has words on it, like it's a letter, it will have those written out. And when you put it back down, it adds color to that part of the room, which is really cool. It's a pretty effective mechanic. So there's that sense of discovery, but interestingly, there's like this inherent kind of implied sense of both rediscovery and undiscovery, if that makes sense. Because like you're playing through, like you as a player are playing through this experience through her eyes, and for you, it's all new. And the thing is, that's what they're trying to convey. It's the same for Sunita. Like, it feels like all this new stuff that you're seeing for the first time is the same for her. And like you're finding clues along the way that make it pretty abundantly clear that it's not new. So that's kind of the undiscovery. And it's really effective. It's really an effective tool to make you feel empathetic towards like Sunita herself, but anyone else in that kind of situation. So yeah, it's, I don't know. There's lots to talk about with it. Another thing that I really appreciated is the fact that it doesn't handle its timeline linearly, really, which is really interesting. Like you'll inspect certain things and it will pull Sunita back into a memory from her youth in India, which, by the way, that's great. Like the voice actor who plays Sunita, her name is Anjani Kunapaneni, I think. Yeah, either way, she nails it. And it's really cool and interesting to have a relatable story from an awesome, like super intelligent character based out of like a really underrepresented part of the world, or even misrepresented in a lot of cases. So, but anyways, like Sunita will be pulled back to her youth in India. And when that section is over, you'll be in a different part of the house. Like when it pulls you back to the normal reality, you're like, oh, I'm over here now. I don't know how I got there. Or like, is it day now? Is it night? How many days have passed? And like that part of it is just really effective. So yeah, I don't know. It being about an hour feels like a deliberate choice, no matter the case. Like nothing felt stretched. It also feels like they didn't, like it feels like it could have been longer because of just how effectively they established the world. It's great. I have no complaints about it, really. It's about $6 or $7 on Steam and itch. There's a $1 DLC, which I can recommend, which is literally just a radio play. It's completely unrelated to the story of the game. Like none of the characters are the same. The situation is not the same. It's just it's just a radio play about these other two characters. And it's really pulpy in like a really positive way. Like, I don't mean that as a derogative kind of thing. It's just, you get to the end of it and it's just like my reaction was to roll my eyes in a good way and say, oh, so that's what this is. So, yeah, everything about Before I Forget is great.
All right. Well, don't forget to play Before I Forget. It's on sale for 10% off on Steam right now. And that $1 DLC is 15% off if you buy it in a bundle. I guess the bundle is 50% off. Yeah, you buy them together and it's 15%. So, I mean, you're just practically throwing money away, not buying it.
Yeah, you should play that game.
Yeah, no, it sounds really, really good. And
Yeah. Like, Allison, you played AI the Somnium Files, right?
yes, but I actually haven't finished it. That's one thing I need to go back to right now.
Did you get to the part where you jump into the dream of Ota's mom?
I think so.
Yeah, because it reminds me of that in quite a few ways. We don't have to dive into that, but yeah. Anyways.
Okay, well, now I think Alex wants to talk about one of his favorite topics, a super sad, super melancholy game, something called Trackmania.
Trackmania kicks ass.
It continues
It very
to do
much
so. I was
does.
playing it just before the podcast.
Yeah, it's become very much my nighttime game again, like it was 5 years ago.
It was my all-day game for a few summers. I was taken back. Like I remembered playing that game while watching a bunch of X-Files, just like binge watching. And spoilers for people who haven't watched the X-Files, but there's like a later season, maybe like season 7, something like that, where they do like a Frankenstein's monster episode. They do, so it's like a take on like the movie version of Frankenstein, not the book version of Frankenstein, where the villagers are all going to the castle and whatnot, and they save the monster, and then the episode ends with them going to like a Cher concert. And like it's all black and white. It's in Kurosawa mode.
It's genuinely like one of the best episodes of the show in my opinion, but
It's just it is the most
a very weird
bizarre
episode,
ending to any TV show. And so just like that is forever inextricably linked to Trackmania.
There is a share room that I saw where I assume they're just listening to share. I did not go into that room.
The share room is the Giant Bomb unofficial classic.
The Giant Bomb unofficial classic server, unfortunately,
I haven't
room
run
has
into any share in there.
no. I think their music choices are pretty disappointing in that room. I gotta
You
say,
say
do better.
this shares because the server I go on has a picture of Cher on it.
That's a different one.
That's different.
That is the true Giant Bomb unofficial classic. If you go to giantbomb.com forums and look it up, it is you have to look for Believe in the club rooms, and that's what it is.
I'll play
great.
some there today because I've been pretty.
That's where you find Star Wars Metallica. It's where you find
Well, damn.
Yeah.
The current named Giant Bomb unofficial classic room has some good track selection, although they picked a lot of like long, frustrating tracks.
Yeah, they picked a lot of really hard ones. Like if this
it
was
was
your
just like,
first Trackmania game, you couldn't
Don't go to that room.
You couldn't finish some of those.
Yeah, most of them I would say. And then the music choice, some of it's like there's that pretty fucking awesome Set Fire to the Rain dubstep remix. That one's good.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a dubstep remix of Photograph by Nickelback that is
God.
really, really awful. Like,
Oh no, I want
makes
to
the
hear
song
it.
worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Limp Bizkit dubstep remix.
I haven't heard a Limp Bizkit one yet. There's that awful Dragon Ball dubstep remix, but it's actually just like dialogue from Dragon Ball with like a slow beat under it. It's terrible.
I think I love it.
For like 7 minutes. But yeah, the game is still pretty fucking awesome. I'm getting a little tired of that room, but the game is awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I have that much more to say about it other than it continues to be like probably the best Trackmania so far.
The thing I'm getting a little bit into is just and it's just because there's so much variety, is full speed tracks.
Yeah.
There's a few rooms that do full speed only. So the idea being you don't ever take your finger off the accelerator, and it's all about like managing your angles going into turns.
Mhm.
That's really fun to learn how to do that. And like you have to like kind of learn certain techniques to get good at it, because it's not just hold it down and there's one specific line. It's really hard to find that line sometimes, and you have to do like different kinds of stick management for turning, which I think is neat. But it's cool. I might try to make a track. I've been playing a lot of these tracks, getting that like I could make a better track than this feeling.
According to this Google sheet I'm looking at, the Giant Bomb server has 2 Dragon Ball dubstep songs.
God.
Good.
Well, I've probably heard both of them, and I think they both
Dragon
suck.
Ball Z Final Flash dubstep remix and Father Son Kamehameha dubstep remix.
I have heard the first one.
That's a very good name, though.
It's always very funny when people come into the room and say, "How do you change to the next song?" We're like, "That's not how it works, friend. We're all in this together."
And I want the Buck Bumble theme.
That's what we've been saying.
Yeah.
My partner and I have both been commenting on the lack of Buck Bumble.
It's on the song list. So
the problem is it only plays one song per map. So there's still a lot of
good song. It's great. If it's a bad song,
there's still a lot of bad. Like it should play more than one song per map. The track rating UI is still broken.
I figured out how to do it.
Worked for me.
You can do it with the chat command. You just can't click the UI.
Oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff about that game that's still kind of broken.
But it's broken
that's also that's a third-party plugin broken.
Yes, and it's broken in exactly the way I want Trackmania to be broken for the most part.
I think what I have started to feel is actually maybe the novelty of maybe I actually just want to play Trackmania because Trackmania is good, and some of the stuff around it that I used to consider core to the experience is no longer as core to me as having good maps and the driving feeling good. And so I think maybe that's where my frustration with that particular room is starting to come in, is like, actually, I think I just want to play good tracks. I don't care about all this other stuff.
Yeah, the tracks are bad.
Yeah,
most of them in that particular room. But anyways, Trackmania is fantastic.
Yes, the game is great.
All right. Well, that means it's Allison's turn to tell us all about the sequel, one of the sequels to her favorite game of all time, Ooblets.
I somehow I knew that you were gonna go like veer off into.
They can call the sequel. They only made Ooblets so that they can make a sequel called Twoblets.
Oh, I want Twoblets.
But they're gonna spell it Tube.
Yeah. And they're all tube people. Now you're onto something.
Now I'm cooking with two.
We said it on a podcast, so that means it's copyrighted. So they have to contact us.
Only if we record it onto a cassette and then send it to ourselves.
What do you think I do every single week?
That's why it takes you so long to upload.
Exactly. Yeah, because I have to back it up to tape first and then mail it to Google, and then they put it on Drive.
Your apartment is full of cassette tapes.
It's just falling, and I don't even have shelf space for them. They're just in stacks on the floor.
What he didn't tell us earlier is that story about his cat was the cat wasn't sleeping on a windowsill, it was sleeping on a pile of cassettes, and it collapsed.
Yeah. But its fall was broken by more cassettes.
Oh no. Oh,
anyway.
How do you have room to even survive now? 130 episodes in.
130 cassettes doesn't actually take up that much room.
But it would be more than that, right? Like
no.
How much room? It's double-sided.
Yeah, so you fit two episodes per cassette. They mail them back to me after I mail them one every week. It's like a rotating thing.
Mm.
But like, how long is like a cassette? How long can it be?
Depends on the cassette.
Alex, you work in music.
They're like big cassettes. They're like VHS tapes.
Oh, but that still
reel
takes
to
a lot of
reel.
space, though.
I don't know, 130. I'll do some measurements.
Yeah, like a cassette can hold like 90 minutes, right? This is what I'm
usually
looking.
like 45 per side, depends on the tape.
Yeah.
I don't
so-
know. I probably own like 130 board games. I don't have all of them in Seattle, but there was a time, trust me, cassettes take up less space than
That's true.
board
That's
games.
true.
I made that work.
Anywho, Ooblets. It's one of my most anticipated games, and it hit early access this week on Xbox and the Epic Store. So I picked it up on the Epic Store, and I played a decent amount of it. I don't know how much more I'm going to play with before waiting for more updates, but it is still pretty dang good in early access. So I recommend giving it a shot if you are interested in it, both supporting the devs, but also I think that there's a lot to love there, even if there are some aspects where you can tell, okay, there's still places to expand. Like there's one area that I haven't been to yet, because in the game they have a sign that's like, we messed this up real good, it'll be a while. And you're like, all right, fair enough.
That's fun. I like that.
No. The entire tone of the game is very much like that, where it's just it's like simultaneously irreverent, but also very like sweet and earnest in a weird way. It's like it's just very. It's a very nice game that also has a lot of goofs in it, which is good. So basically, it's a mix of like a kind of like a farming game, like a kind of life sim farming game, but also a monster collecting game. So the Ooblets are the creatures in the game, and you can you collect them by farming them. So you have to you can farm other stuff like other resources and things, but also part of what you're doing is growing seeds so that you can have your Ooblets. There's a lot of different ones, but they're all very, very, very cute. And you're basically, for right now, trying to do various tasks around the town that you've been in. I think you can start going to other towns later. But for example, it's like, okay, we need to collect all of these resources so that we can reopen a dance hall, or we can get this friendship badge maker back online so that we can all start getting friendship stickers again. Like, it's very, very cute.
It looks so good too. Like, it looks great.
Yeah, it's very, very cute. And the entire presentation, especially for being early access, is really, really polished. It really just feels like, there's some features missing. There's some areas missing. And I ran into like a tiny bug, but for the most part, it's polished so that if you want that cute aesthetic, it's right there. The Pokemon like thing is your relatively infrequent, at least from where I've been, dance battles, which are card based and turn based, because you basically, as you level up your Ooblets, you get more cards that you can use in these Ooblets dance battles, and basically you're just trying to raise your get up to a certain number of points before your opponents, which is usually pretty easy, but there are actually it's all the battles I've done so far have been easy, but there is an element of strategy to it that I can see an element of depth, and I can see it getting harder if they wanted to. Like, for example, each of the different Ooblets have different cards that you can use. They all have different costs. So, for example, you might want to prioritize something that increases your hype meter, which can multiply your points later on, before you start adding more points, or you can stun your opponents or steal points from them even. So there's enough. So far it's been really easy, but there's enough there that you go, okay, I can see where there could be depth in the future.
So
yeah,
you're getting into these dance battles.
Yes.
What is prompting them? Is it like random encounters? Is it you're running into quote unquote gym leaders?
No, you're running into so far it's just been I've been running into Ooblets. Gotcha. You're actually, the thing that's kind of interesting is that at the end of each battle you get a seed. You can get a seed that you can grow into one of your Ooblets. But to get into a battle, you need to have some kinds of resources. So getting certain ones is a lot easier than others. Like there's probably my first Ooblet that wasn't my starter Ooblet, who's a very cute frog. But the next one I got, you just needed to have enough of the wood resource, so it was which is really easy to get. So it's kind of a more common, easy to get Ooblet, whereas there are a couple of other ones where you have to, for example, like craft some food, and then you can get into a battle with them. There are a couple of times where you have to get into dance battles to solve requests or solve some issues with them. So for example, like you need to get into the town hall because the mayor is like, hi, I've been meeting with people at like with this set of cardboard boxes as my town hall because the town hall is overtaken by Ooblets. So you have to, so to solve that, you do get into a dance battle with them. But for the most part, you actively choose to get into dance battles, and you want to, because then you can collect those Ooblets.
I would like to note throughout all of what you were just saying, Andre looked completely baffled. He's like, I hear these words coming out of your mouth, dance battles and seeds and crafting, but none of it, it's like, what?
Yeah, it feels that way. And everything in the game has very like kind of cutesy names. So you just are like, I have to go collect a bunch of nernies for this
Epic
thing.
Game Store page. They've got a bunch of screenshots, and one of them is a who's that? Like who's that Pokemon type thing, and it says it's Lump Stump. A woodsy ooblet found in the forest around Badgetown. Scientists are divided on classifying Lump Stump's head branches as ears or horns.
Yeah, that's the one that I got from because you just need to have a certain number of wood to collect Lump Stump. So it's there's also like, I don't know to what extent the rarity is, but I definitely have what I assume is the shiny variant of Lump Stump. So I don't know how that works or how rare those are. But
what
I
does
have
a shiny Lump Stump look like?
It's like orangey color.
Okay.
But so
have you ever actually found like some shiny wood? Because I was camping one time and we got firewood like you do. And we're sitting around the campfire at night, and then we're like, hey, that pile of wood is glowing. That's weird. But it had like some fungus. It had some fungus inside that was bioluminescent. Shit's cool.
That is cool. Also,
that was neat.
For what it's worth, for any of our audio only listeners who have no idea what this even looks like, it looks kind of like a blend between like a Keita Takahashi game, like your Katamaris or your Wadums, but also like Donut County maybe. Like it's kind of got that kind of low poly, exaggerated look to it, but it's also pretty colorful. So I don't know. I don't know what else you would use to describe it, but that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, and the aesthetic is both cute and kind of weird, which is why I'm like, I was saying earlier this week that I'm like, this fits exactly the aesthetic I like, which is very fun. I'm like, okay, it's adorable, but it's also just like kind of weird, and there's just like the Ooblets all look very strange. It's very, very good. But the one thing I will say is that it is very much okay, I'll play one more day type of game for it, just because of all of the tasks that you get are, I mean, they're very low stakes in that there feels like there is a day system, but I haven't run into any issues with it yet. And I haven't run into any sort of like, it's Saturday, so you can't do X. Like, there is no real time limit to anything that I've seen, or no real like time restrictions or anything like that. So so the stakes are low, and it's very cozy in that way, in that if you like the kind of life sim, but you don't want to be like anxious about like, what if I miss something that day, you won't. But also you're going, okay, next day in game, I will be harvesting this resource, which I can get to complete this thing and then get to go do this thing. So it's a very much a just one more day type game, but also very low stress about it.
You're selling me on this so hard right now.
Which is very, very addicting, because the day it came out, I was playing it until like 1 or 2 a.m. because I'm just like, one more day. I need to see what happens when I complete this thing. And then it just like more things start coming, and you're like, all right.
So you're saying it's basically like Civilization with one more turn all the time.
With zero stress about it, though.
And no Gandhi.
Like, the only reason that you're like this anxious about like, okay, one more day, is because it's like fun, and you get to see lovely. It's like, oh, maybe that next day I can build another Ooblets, like I can upgrade my Ooblet shelter thing on my farm so that I can have more Ooblets and I can catch more. So it's like,
totally.
This sounds great.
I feel nothing but
so
serenity.
good.
I feel nothing but serenity when I fire the nuclear missiles at my opponents in Civilization.
In Ooblets.
no,
But I get what you're feeling with that, Allison, because that's kind of how I felt playing Watum as well, right? Like, you're just like, what's the next buck wild weird fucking thing that's going to show up? And like, because you're just kind of, you're along for the ride of watching the creators kind of like watching their creativity at play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just in general very, very charming and very sweet. There's just it's just this like game that's pure chill and pure, I gotta see what the next Ooblet they show me is, because they're all weird and cute and great. And
do we have any idea like how many there are? Is there like a
there's definitely an index in there, but I don't remember how many. It's definitely not like, to the level of say like Pokemon or anything like that, but
do they evolve? Do they
not that I've
like
seen.
Is there like a fashion show? Do they put on like a hat?
No, but they dance.
Okay, well, yeah, but to what end?
For their own fun. They love to dance.
Well, at least they just. Oops, sorry about that. At least they just dance instead of Pokemon, where they're forced to fight each other.
Hey, I bet
dance battle, and at the end,
I'm pretty sure there are some dancing Pokemon in the anime, at least.
And at the end of each battle, the way that you get the seed from the Ooblet is that you like tell it, oh, you did a good job, like after you beat it in the dance battle, and then it farts out a seed. It's
hell yeah,
great. Yeah, there have been a couple of things where the writing, I'm like, is this an Alex game? There are a couple of things where I just saw this and I'm like,
I'm actually pretty interested to try it. I just want to wait till it's out of early access, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I normally do that with most games too. This is just
same.
one that I saw the trailer for it like years ago at this point. And I
Yeah.
was just like, all right, I am playing this game. So
I think that's part of why Stardew Valley didn't work for me, is because that game came out in early access, didn't it?
I don't think so.
I think it came out fully formed.
Oh, then I just don't like Stardew Valley, which is
they
fine.
have just
So we can move on.
that
Yeah,
that person has been adding to it.
Maybe that's all.
Yeah,
that's
he's
all I'm thinking
added
about.
quite a bit of content.
I
And
feel
like-
like played with the masturbation add-on where everyone has like a masturbation schedule.
Maybe I would like it more. I don't know. I don't think I would like it
that-
more. That sounds very
No.
off-putting to me.
Is that an
but
official add-on?
No, someone made
Okay.
a mod and
Yeah.
you can it gives every
if
character
you
like
wanna-
a masturbation schedule where they go off to their house and lock their door.
Like
If you want to dive into
Yeah.
weird, Stardew Valley has there's a weird, Patrick Levick has done some writing on this. There's a lot of weird mods for Stardew Valley out there.
Yeah.
You
I
wouldn't
think he
expect it
wrote
for that
about that
game,
mod.
but yeah.
Anyway, they
wonder if there's
added something to it recently. I don't
Is
know.
there an Ooblet masturbation mod?
no.
God,
not yet.
No.
Why? No.
I was gonna say
Come on,
no,
Alex. Way to
thank
make
you.
it weird.
No
Alex.
mod support.
God.
No mod support for this game, please.
God, no. Yeah, but it's yeah, I definitely
Can't take
don't
you
blame
anywhere.
anybody who wants to wait until this is out of early access, because I mean there is still like I don't know how much I'm going to play it before it leaves early access, because I don't know. But it's very fun, and it's still very I still recommend to keep taking a look at it and giving it a shot if you are cool with early access or waiting until it's out. But it's what I wanted it to be, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, it looks great. Do you
Yes.
know, have they communicated at all when it might be out of early access?
Not that I've seen, I don't think.
I would assume it's going to be a while, because I mean it's been in development for 4 years, so I would think.
Yeah, I would say I do think that mechanically it's mostly there, and aesthetically too. So it feels like it's definitely early access. Like it's definitely not, oh, this is secretly complete and they released it in early access for whatever reason. Like it's definitely early access, but I think that it's not. It's like there's enough there where I'm like, okay, it's very, very playable, and it's not like
Yeah, not necessarily missing features, more just content.
right, exactly.
It's tough because like I want to play Hades again real bad and start over, but I also don't want to. They've talked about like minor balance tweaks and stuff being in the final 1.0 update, and it's like, well, then I don't want to play it now.
That's going to be every patch is going to be like minor balance tweaks.
Yeah, but if
like the end of the game isn't in there, like the real ending isn't in
so,
yet. But
and I
it
think
sounds like it's mostly there.
It's a similar thing in Ooblet. Like if I were to start playing Ooblets, if like in 2 months they're like, oh, we've added 20 additional Ooblets that you can get, and it's like, well, maybe I would have wanted to farm those on day 3 or something. Like I get so conflicted. It might just be all in my head, but I get so conflicted about like.
Well, they're also on very different points of.
Oh no, I know.
access,
I'm just saying
whereas-
early access as a concept generally is
Oh, for sure. And then,
frustrating.
like I said, I generally don't really try to go for early access just because I feel the same way. And I've had that happen too, where I've played something in early access and gone, oh, I don't know how good that is. And then I'm like, wait, that was my impression based off of the early access.
Yeah.
Pat plays the most early access games here.
I think that's.
But at the same time, I was just like, I was so excited for this one.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that
definitely.
feels like the inherent risk of ever going into something early access. It's like, oh, you're not going to get to the ending. It's going to stop you at some point. And like, if you don't know when the actual ending will be coming out, or if like some games have been in early access for so long, like it's just like, well, when do I come back to it? Do I come back to it? Or when it does come out, do you feel motivated to come back to it and play through everything you've already played again,
Right.
just to like see what changed and stuff like that? Like for me, that's that's a big ask most of the time, which is why I also kind of tend to not play early access much.
And the early access games that I tend to play more of are things that don't have that narrative going on, you know, like
same.
I didn't bring it because we already had a stacked show. Maybe next week I'll talk about it, but I'm playing an early access game here and there now that it's a competitive, it's a battle royale. So like it's fine with me if like there's lots of balance changes and stuff. I expect that. And like it doesn't bother me if I'm playing it in early access and it's not like finished, because it's a competitive thing. So it's like stuff's going to get added to it. It's with narrative stuff, it can be frustrating.
Yeah, totally.
And like, I like the way like Satisfactory, for example, is a game I've played a fair bit in early access. That game, everything that they're adding is bolting onto the end of it. It's not like there's no, like, you progress through different like levels of technology, and they're not really adding stuff to the early game. So it's kind of a little different because, and that was like sort of the initial pitch for Hades as well, is they're going to add narrative episodes, but it's also enough, it's being refined enough at the same time that I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to play through this, because there's so different games, right? Like Satisfactory is like a factory building game. They will make some tweaks probably to the resources that you need to build things, but it's not the same as, I want the best experience playing Hades as possible. So I'm going to play it when they consider it complete, you know?
Yeah.
So, cause I want to play the most refined, like perfected version in their eyes of that game. So it's, I mean, and it's true of like Hard Space Shipbreaker. I had a similar feeling to that, to what you're saying, Allison, about Ooblets, which is that game has been something I've been interested in for years now. And so I got it and checked it out, but like it has a story and it's structured in such a way where like they're adding more to the story, but you could play the campaign for like 100 hours right now and get like all the money. And then as the story stuff comes out, just like already have the resources. And that's not really how I want to play that game. So I kind of tried it and then put it down, and we'll wait to play it further.
Anyways, Ooblets seems cool.
Well,
Ooblets seems awesome, yeah.
And speaking of games that are right up Allison's alley, then she has been waiting a long time for Paper Mario.
Yes. Paper Mario, the Origami King came out yesterday.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
Is your overall feeling a thumb up or a thumb down?
I'd say a thumb up for sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say I think it's definitely not perfect, and I don't think that it's definitely not going to be like, this is the best Paper Mario game, because if it did that, I would be shocked. But it's still very, very good, with just a couple of caveats, I think. So if you're new to the podcast or you don't remember, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is my favorite game of all time. So I really love the Paper Mario series, but then as most people are aware, the Paper Mario series has been not so great lately.
It's been creasing. It's been a little frayed around the edges.
Oh yeah.
Stop it.
Crumpled.
Hey, I mean, they make a lot of those jokes in Paper Mario, so that's pretty on
point. Put through the shredder.
so it's very much coming up to Origami King. I was like, it's very specific. Hope it's good, but also I don't want to get my hopes up too high.
The ultimate in tempered expectations.
Exactly, where I'm just like, I'd love to be super hyped about it, but also
super hype. Super hype.
So it's been out. I think I'm good. I'm in the second major area right now, and it's been really good so far. I think from what a lot of the people who have played it in before for reviews and stuff have said is very, very true, where the writing and the general tone and atmosphere of the game is really where it shines, which is, I think, the most important part of a Paper Mario game, which is very, very good. I actually really like the battling system. I was surprised with how much I've enjoyed it. It has enough strategy to it where if you haven't seen any of the preview footage, basically for most battles, you're in the center of a circle and you have to, for the first stage, move the various pieces of the circle around so that you can get the enemies in an advantageous way. And then you do the kind of turn-based battles afterwards. So I think that works out really well. And then the boss fights that I've played so far have been really, really fun. The biggest concern with them is the lack of RPG elements, which makes the battles feel not as consequential. Like, there is an element of your character getting stronger to an extent, because when I got the HP up, they're like, oh, that means you're stronger, right? And then it's like, I guess I am now.
That's not very definitive.
Yeah, but it's like you don't really see stats, so it's like I don't have to battle like just standard Goomba enemies if I don't want to right now. But
because you can just like kill them in the overworld, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so it's like so there's
sorry.
like still some progression, but at the same time it's like not. And then the main things that you get from battles are coins and the confetti, which
confetti. Oh, right. Yeah.
Because the overworld there's a bunch of things that are missing and holes everywhere, and that you fill them with confetti, which I feel like for a lot of people would get very old very quickly. That said, the animation when Mario throws confetti is very cute, so I like it. But the puzzle solving with it is very, very, very basic in that you just see a thing and you go, I need confetti for that. You throw the confetti and you fixed it. So it's not really, very compelling puzzle solving for that. But I mean, there's enough puzzle solving, especially with the battles, that I think that's fine.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't seem like any of those are real like brain teasers. Like, it's not like asking you to do anything particularly complicated.
Yeah.
But so is every encounter you have similarly structured where you're kind of figuring out these puzzles, like you're doing the circle puzzles, or are there some that you can just kind of mash X or A or whatever and just kind of get through it?
Like, if you wanted to, you could skip it, but lining them up does give you an attack bonus, and it gives you a coin bonus at the end. And then also you usually have like pretty limited number of attacks you can do. And from what I've seen, a lot of the enemy attacks, especially early on, are a lot more dangerous than maybe like in other kind of RPGs where they might, if you say like, decide I'm not going to line anybody up and I'm just going to pick them off one by one, it would be like you could technically do that, but without the RPG elements, I don't know if there's any way to make that like sustainable past some of the most basic enemies. And also that would just be really boring, to be honest, because there's just because of the way that they have this, there's just so many more enemies that they have on the battlefield, because you can at least right now get 4 enemies at once basically with one attack. So if you're just kind of picking them off by one, it would be very, very slow and very, very kind of more dangerous. So it's like you could. But the other thing is that one of the collectibles around the world that you have is collecting toads that are everywhere. And they can help you during the battles, partially by giving you health, partially by injuring things, but also partially by like half solving the puzzles for you. So if sometimes you like last night, I was kind of tired. I was nearing the ending of my game session and I was like, I don't want to do this puzzle. So I just paid them enough coins so that they would do most of it for me. And I was like, all right, there we go. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot of elements where you can kind of do that or mostly get it. And I think that the game does a good enough job in the beginnings where like for almost the entire first area, it will show you basically where, like how they're supposed to look, if that makes sense, and then jump to their new locations. So you can kind of see, okay, I need to get it back to that. Whereas then later they don't do that at all. So that you have more trying to figure out, okay, what's the best optimal positioning. But yeah, it's I think it's fun, and I'm enjoying it. It's just, again, like coins are in very, very high supply, both in the overworld, both in getting and defeating any enemies. So it's like there are a lot of times where I'm like, I could fight that enemy, but I don't really feel like it. So yeah, because the Mushroom Kingdom economy has gotten kind of messed up in that it seems like there's been some serious inflation going on, because I had about 12,000 coins before I bought my first item. So but wow. I mean, they all cost a little bit more than they would otherwise, but it's still, it feels like you're getting them constantly for, like, especially since a lot of the confetti puzzles are puzzles with very strong air quotes. What they do is, if they aren't like unlocking an area for you, they give you coins. So it's like there's just like so many different ways to get coins that it's like makes them feel really inconsequential, which I think is a shame, because I think that the new ideas work, especially again in boss battles where the boss is in the center and you have to navigate around to hit different areas and hit different weak points on the boss. It's really fun. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. In a way, it does kind of make sense, though, if they're converting the RPG elements to coins. Like,
right.
in that, like, your abilities or, like, the stuff you would traditionally upgrade with XP or, like, upgrades, trees, or whatever. Like, now you're just doing that as discrete coin purchases. That makes sense, because you're not really paying attention to the fact that, oh, I have 400,000 XP points, and like for my next level I need another 20,000. You're like, oh no, I'm level 30.
Oh yeah. And Mario RPGs have always been pretty light on the RPG elements in general. I say as somebody who still hasn't played Super Mario RPG, so that could be wrong there. But like Paper Mario as a series, like the RPG elements are usually pretty basic. Like, you're not upgrading skill trees, you're not going through and upgrading discrete attack points, special attack or whatever. Like, there's not that. So to an extent I agree. I'm just at the point where I've never been at a point where I haven't had more coins than I know what to do with. So that might just be early in the game.
In life, Super Mario.
No, I wish in life. No. But I'd like to, I hope that later in the game it starts being more of a thing, because I'm at the point where I'm buying literally every accessory I can in the store. I have like multiples of every item, and I'm like still overrun with coins. So, but also also you do need the confetti, so. sometimes that's the fastest way to get it is through a battle. So it's, yeah, but I think that's really the weakest part. And I think that's from what I've seen has been the most divisive part is the RPG elements. But I mean, that's kind of always been kind of an area of contention with Paper Mario fans. So, but I think it's just also, it's been a really fun time so far. Like that was another game where I was up way too late last night because I was just really having a good time with it. The one thing that's been kind of interesting to follow for the past couple of days have been interviews with the director of the game in particular, but also just like hearing about the various rules that Nintendo has about what you can do in a Paper Mario versus not, that kind of make no sense to me. Like I'm trying to figure out how the exact thing was phrased. Basically, they can't create characters in Paper Mario that will cross over to other Mario games, apparently. So like your main companion who you hang out with, Olivia, who's really great. She's a really fun character. Apparently won't be able to go to any of the other mainline Mario games, but also apparently they can't modify Mario existing Mario characters.
But
to a certain extent.
But they folded up Bowser into a little square.
Yeah, apparently that's okay.
That's a
but
pretty heavy modification.
It is, but like it's very, very weird. I'm trying to find the justification, like the article.
They can't say give Mario a gun.
Right. Well,
they can't
also,
give.
They don't have as much freedom as Ubisoft.
They can't give all the Toads masturbation schedules.
Oh God.
Oh, why has that become what this episode's about? But okay, yeah. Since Paper Mario Sticker Star, it is no longer possible to modify Mario characters or create original characters that touch on the Mario universe. So they can't take a character the first Paper Mario companion that you get in the original Paper Mario is Goombario, who has a hat. He has square teeth instead of kind of the fang type teeth that a Goomba has, and looks different than a Goomba. Like you couldn't do that in this one. And I'm why?
I've seen it suggested that because they're opening up Super Mario World and stuff like that, they're trying to just here is the Mario canon.
Here's the Mario design, yeah.
And here are the Mario characters you know and love. None of this. No, you're not going to see the Origami King at Super Mario World at Universal Studios because that's not a canon Mario character.
Yeah, so the character, but then I think they're trying their best to work within the this restrictions that they have. I met a Bob-omb who is nicknamed Bobby, and I love him so much. He is a good character, and I'm very happy about him and also the other characters that we've met so far. But at the same time, you're kind of it's frustrating that there are those restrictions, especially since it's I don't think that those necessarily make all the most sense, but I feel like there's definitely some reservations I have, but a part of me doesn't know to what extent is that because of the fact that I love Paper Mario so much. If I've tried to think of if I was just playing this as my first Paper Mario game and I didn't know any of this outside stuff, how would I feel about it? And I don't know. I think that it's very, very fun, and I'm really, really enjoying it. So I hope that, I can kind of view the game partially as a fan of the series, but also partially from a distance. But even still, even viewing it as a fan of the series, it really does have a lot of the fun charm and character of Paper Mario. And I've really enjoyed that. Like, there have been, like, I laughed at a joke pretty within like a few minutes of the game starting, and early on, you're hanging out with Folded Bowser, and he's like just giving running commentary, and Peach shows up, and he's like, "She can't see me like this," and it's very, very good. So there's enough. There's a lot of really good things there. So it's been
cool.
So I'm really excited to see where this game goes, and I'm like as much like kind of quibble as I have of it. So I'm excited to see future areas. The other thing too is that it looks really, really good. All of the paper textures and all of the origami looks really great, and the music is just great. The music is really, really good. There have been a couple of times where I've just been walking around and I've been like, I just want to kind of hang out and listen to this music for a while. So that's been really, really nice. And I'm hoping that either like that they can keep up the Paper Mario series, especially since Mario and Luigi may or may not is probably not going to be going on anymore. Sad face. And then also, please Nintendo port Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door to Switch. So that's what I want.
All right. Well, we'll save your other game for next week if you still want to talk about it, because we're already going long.
Yeah, no, that's
a real quick check-in, continuing my brief chat from last week about Yakuza Kiwami. I finished it today after taking like a 2.5 year break. I put that game down in January of 2018 and came back to it this month. I was like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? There's like a missing lady, and there's this 9-year-old girl. I've been in prison for 10 years. My blood brother is now like one of the top people in the Yakuza, but he's like trying to kill me maybe.
Something real estate.
No, not in this one. No real estate. That's Yakuza 0. There's more real estate.
Yeah, that's right. Of course.
There's plenty of real estate in the other games, I believe, but that was the big thing in Yakuza 0.
Yes.
But I believe that Kiwami and Kiwami 2 were built on the Yakuza 0 engine. And they're so in terms of like the combat, at least Kiwami, it's taking a PS2 game and recreating it in this new engine, but they added a stance. So there's like 4 stances. They added the dragon stance, but I didn't find it all that useful. Maybe if I had upgraded it more, it would have been more useful. You upgrade it by going around town and having Majima ambush you through the Majima Everywhere system. If you recall that being one of the selling points of this remaster. And he literally anywhere. You're like, hey, this like cab is just like parked and shaking. And I walk up to it, and sometimes you're like, oh, I found an item. And sometimes Majima's like, aha, I gotcha. And then you have to fight him in the middle of the street. Or you're walking along and he's like, I'm going to pop out of this manhole and start fighting you. Or I'm just going to walk up and get real close behind you. So yeah, that stuff's really goofy. That relationship between those two characters is real good. Because Kiryu is just like, why are you like this? Why don't you leave me alone? And Majima just wants to fight him because reasons, I guess. Because anime reasons. So that stuff's real good. Thinking back on it as a PS2 game is, I think, pretty impressive. Just in terms of like the amount of stuff that is available for you to do in the open world. it's granted it's a contained space, but there's like a lot of variety in mini games and stuff that you can go and do. Like there's the pocket circuit racing, there's like darts and billiards and karaoke and side quests, like 70 side quests and all that stuff. These games are very robust, and they've also been making like the same game, like so many of the
For like 20 years.
But it's like so many of the points, like, so it's the same map, and like they branch you out to different places. Like, oh, this in like 3 you go to Okinawa, in 2 you go to Osaka a few times, which was also in 0, but you were switching back and forth between who you were playing in 0. But like even down to like some of the story stuff, like the locations, like you end up in Millennium Tower a lot, it seems like. It's just like all the Yakuza are like, yep, no, got a big thing going on in Millennium Tower. You better go have a big climactic fight there. Oh, there's helicopters and stuff like that is kind of funny. So it's just like they just really keep coming back to the same like set pieces, which if they set it in the same locations, I guess they're bound to do that. But it's still very good and satisfying, and I think the story is real good in Kiwami, and I look forward to playing through the rest. So yeah,
wait, sorry,
picked up Yakuza Kiwami on 2. Oh yeah,
sorry, the rest being Yakuza.
The rest
Kiwami
of the Yakuza,
2,
the Yakuza, or no, I finished
just
Yakuza Kiwami and the rest of the Yakuza games because I've played 0, 6, and 1 now. This is the machete order, and so I know like the fate of some characters. Like I'm like, oh, I know this character isn't around in the future, so that they're probably not going to make it much further. There's some bad tropes in there, but also it's an old game, so
sure.
But yeah, so I picked up Yakuza Kiwami 2 on the Steam sale just in time for them to announce it's coming to Game Pass this month on PC. So maybe I'll just return that. I haven't played it at all yet. So
yeah, it's probably reasonable.
Yeah, but also, we'll see. And it wasn't super expensive, but with $15, who knows? So there's that. And I don't know when the other games are coming to PC yet. They haven't said anything as far as I know, but it would be nice to get those all done before Yakuza 7 comes out. I don't think that's going to happen. They're pretty long games, and I always end up taking like a pretty long break in between like starting and finishing them. But I think like for the first like 8 chapters, it took me like 6 hours, and then it ends in like chapter 13, which is their like normal is it ends in chapter 13. I ended with like 25 hours.
Right.
So there's a lot happening. Like they move you through the first part of the game pretty quick, and then a lot. Like it kind of lets you loose in the back half or the back third or something. Back third chapter wise, at least.
God, that reminds me of Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah,
just specifically how like the first 9 chapters are like it'll take you like 10 to 20 hours, and then like there's some chapter, I forget what it is, 10 or 11, that's like literally 20 or 30 hours on its own.
Oh no.
There's nothing like that here. It's mostly just I don't know. I was just going through the story pretty quick at that point. I don't know what it was. I did like just over half the sub stories. They're real hard to come across, even just like running all over that town at all times, unless you like really partake in every single side activity, which some of them like, I don't want to play Mahjong. I don't want to play Go. I don't think Go is actually in the game, but I don't want to play Mahjong. I don't have the mental capacity to learn the game.
And you're talking about actual Mahjong, like not what we in North America think Mahjong is.
Yeah. So, but it's awesome that all that stuff's in there, but it would be nice if they had kind of modernized some menus and stuff a little bit more, because like, oh, I failed this thing. I have to back out all the way and then go through all the menus again. and stuff like that.
That's why I stopped playing it. And I stopped playing it pretty early on because it just felt old, even though it looked new. And it's kind of just hard for me to want to put myself through that.
That's totally fair.
I've been thinking about watching like all the cutscenes like on like
That's
YouTube
not
or
a bad
whatever.
way to do it, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. So then
Like,
that way, when the new ones come out, like start there again.
It's got some real good just story moments, like cutscenes of just like Kiryu kicking doors open and people being on the other side and being flung across a room. Or there's one where you go to like a restaurant where there's a rival gang and you're like, I'm here to see the leader, and they're like, I don't know who that is, and then some guy behind the counter is like, I'm gonna pull out a gun, and Kiryu just grabs the waiter that's next to him, is like, nope, human shield, and then that guy gets shot and then throws him at the guy with the gun, and it's all ridiculous. And everyone's like, Kiryu never kills people. And saying, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
Kills people a lot.
And the thing is, Yakuza's always been ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the first game just remastered. But it just never really caught on in the West for whatever reason.
Yeah. Like,
are you finding? Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
No, please go for it.
Just that I found when I was playing 0 and 6, but that it was. A lot of the side stuff is where the magic is, and I'm kind of like, part of me wants to force myself to play those games just to see all that stuff, but also I don't want to play Mahjong either.
Well, yeah, you can, but luckily that's only a small part of it. And for you, because some of the combat can get a little tedious, especially in Kiwami, at least 7 is turn-based combat.
All right, okay.
Which is strange.
I can get behind that.
Supposedly it's a really good game. So I'm looking forward to playing that. And they've got like weird summons, like I'm gonna dial a cell phone number and a bunch of lobsters are gonna fall from the sky.
Hell yeah, that sounds great.
Yep. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm probably gonna stream some Yakuza Kiwami 2 over the summer because I got summer break coming up. So you can tune into that, Erica, and see all that.
Will do.
Just watch the cutscenes.
Hell yeah.
But things I might not be tuning into is some stuff in the news, like another Ubisoft Forward. I don't know. Like, they say there's going to be another one. I don't know if I need another one.
No,
that's what I got.
That was a very abrupt transition. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no,
I think I was still kind of like reeling of like, wait, what?
That's okay. That's we're running long today.
Yeah,
Yep.
but no, that Ubisoft Forward, for people who care about Ubisoft, it was great. But for someone like me who doesn't care about Ubisoft, boy, was that a chore.
I care about Ubisoft. I care about pretty much every game they listed there, as in I will probably buy, not Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. You, not you. But like, I'm excited about Far Cry 6 because I like Giancarlo Esposito, and that trailer was really cool. Well, it was good. And I'm excited for Watch Dogs Legion to an extent. I'm excited for AC Valhalla. That event sucked. It was just their E3 presentation from last year.
Like, I'm interested in playing those 3 games too, and I'm like, I specifically just was like, I don't need to watch this, and it was the right call for me.
Also, that Tom Clancy's Elite Squad thing, there was a very long trailer for that in which they break the bad guy from Ghost Recon Wildlands out of prison and give him a gun, which I don't understand. But I didn't finish the story or pay attention to it in Wildlands because it sucked. But it's weird.
Also about who broke him out.
I don't even remember. It was Sam Fisher.
It was Sam Fisher.
Yeah.
But we knew he was in the game already.
Yeah, but it seemed like they were trying to like make it like this big reveal. They like had him repel, and then they like show his like stupid night vision goggles with the 3 dots, and they're like, oh.
Look, I am the last person who's going to dunk on games adopting alternative art styles from their previous stuff. Like, I'm not the kind of person who's like, it's Tom Clancy, so it's got to be hard. But also,
Huh.
It's also Tom Clancy, so it feels like it shouldn't. I don't know. It was dumb.
It shouldn't be
That's all I have to
cartoony.
say about that.
Tom Clancy's Clone Wars.
Yeah.
There was a lot in this that was ill-advised, like
Well,
the Holocaust poem with the watchdogs.
Oh yeah.
That was weird.
not to mention, you know, the kind of dynamic around Ubisoft over the past couple of weeks.
For sure.
Yeah, that too.
It's been,
And how they
Especially
didn't-
since
they
they
didn't-
basically just tweeted like, "Hey, we're
we
things
won't
are
say
happening."
anything.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
saying they're like, we're not going to say anything about this, but we acknowledge it
Yeah.
happened, but we're not going to say anything during the stream about it. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's like great.
Yeah.
Yay.
I think the thing with the Watch Dogs short film, if you want to call it, that's what they referred to it as.
Yeah.
I will say I agree that it's a little weird to use that poem. I also see that poem used as a meme on Twitter all the fucking time. So I think like if you are someone who uses that poem as a meme on Twitter, you should probably not do that either. You know, like that was, I feel like there's a lot of meaning has been sucked from that particular thing. So it's just the whole thing around that was weird. But
yeah.
We don't have to talk about the Ubisoft Forward for much longer, but the Watch Dogs Legion trailer, I kept expecting it to be better, or like the gameplay stuff. Cause like, better is the wrong word. Like to show some kind of new system, because honestly, it was showing exactly what we knew 2 years ago.
I also think I heard a justification. I think it was just speculation on Waypoint. They were speculating that maybe they didn't go into the rampant sexual assault and workplace harassment issues at Ubisoft on the stream because people who aren't in the know wouldn't know about that.
Yeah.
So like they wanted not for like mainstream people who don't follow the industry. I think it's interesting that I would think that is probably a correct assessment or assumption about why they might not have gone into it. But they also made a big deal about Clint Hawking being on Watch Dogs Legion, which is like, if you're a mainstream consumer, do you know who that is? Which was funny to me. The whole pacing of the thing and everything in it was so weird and like, and then like all of the AC Valhalla stuff was, I mean, the game looks really good if you like those games, but there was all the
gameplay.
There's all the outrage. There was all the outrage at the Microsoft thing that they didn't show real gameplay. And I was very puzzled by that because like, you know what that game is. If you go look at gameplay of Assassin's Creed Odyssey and imagine that it's going to be Vikings instead, that's the game. And then guess what? They showed real gameplay and that's the game. Like, I don't know. It was just weird all around.
Yeah.
But there's like some other different stuff in there, like castle sieges and stuff. But
it'll have new elements, I'm sure, but I don't know what people were expecting from a like.
When they're like, oh, it's the next gen Assassin's Creed, you know, you want to see something, but it's also gonna be on current gen. I think the biggest thing for me came after the event, after the Far Cry 6 reveal. Giancarlo Esposito, it seems to be some sort of South American dictator.
Looks like it's like a
Giancarlo Esposito is Danish.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Which just kind of,
it's a diverse country.
Yes, but also Denmark is not the South America or like Central America even. So that's Danish born. I don't know if maybe his parents are, and he was just born in Denmark. American Italian. Like,
that's weird. I don't know.
Come on, Ubisoft.
I don't know.
He's also very recognizable. So like,
I think the thought is more. It's a little weird.
Set it in Italy. Set it on Mount Vesuvius. I don't know.
I think the idea, it's a little weird to cast him as a, Fidel Castro kind of stand-in, which
probably have like Breaking Bad to partially thank for that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all weird.
Yeah. So he is Italian, half black and Italian.
I don't know.
Okay. He's American Italian.
There was a better event than the Ubisoft one that also happened.
Yeah.
There was the event was better, but boy, did they not show very much.
No, I mean the stuff that they showed was good, but like,
damn, I didn't know everyone loves Stadia now.
That's
the most deafening silence I've ever heard.
I was like, wait, did my audio cut out?
It was our pre-moment of silence for when Stadia is dead in 8 months.
No, it's what you were actually talking about was the Devolver showcase thing.
Which continued the Devolver cinematic universe.
I super don't understand the Devolver cinematic universe.
I don't know if I do. I watch it every year.
Joy.
I watch it every year, and I'm like, there's all this stuff that they're doing, and I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. But but then Nina Struthers comes back, and I'm like, Nina's back. Nina's back.
The actor who plays Nina fucking ripped this year. She was so good.
All out. I love her.
I've never watched one of their shows in totality because it doesn't really. I usually tune in and I'm kind of like, this isn't grabbing me, but I'm so glad that they do something really weird because somebody should.
It's worth watching her speech from the end of this one, which was like halfway legitimate criticism of the modern state of the video game industry and then half just really good acting.
It was crazy. Like,
sounds like Devolver.
Yeah, it was a very, very fun thing. They didn't show too much off, but I mean, like the games they showed off, I think look pretty fun. Like I think Carry On looks really good. So I'm excited to give that a shot, which is apparently coming out next week.
Yep. Serious Sam looks like Serious Sam.
Yeah.
They made a game to go around and look at trailers and stuff.
Devolverland Expo. Apparently it's its own game, like you were saying, Andre, but like apparently like it does have its own arc, and apparently the ending is really good.
Okay, I haven't played it yet, but now I feel like I probably need to go play it.
Yeah, like apparently it's actually really good, which is surprising.
Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, because like last year they did Devolver Bootleg, which was which I played actually not an insignificant amount of their like
the developers of Gato Roboto.
Yeah. And
Devolverland Expo is a first-person marketing simulator. Yep. Maybe I don't need to play this.
All right. Well,
it was very Devolver is what I think it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of guests too.
They did. It was weird. I was like
Shuhei
Yoshida, Jeff Keighley, Sonic Fox.
He'll show up on anybody. Like Jeff Keighley will show up for anything now.
You have to ring the Dorito bell and he appears.
I love how he's never going to live that down.
No, he's not. I would let him live it down if he would stop putting his foot in his mouth.
God.
Anyways,
I hate the guy.
Sticking his whole ass out there. His Dorito dust-covered ass.
But yeah, whatever. Anyways, it was a good event.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed watching it.
Well, let's finish out the trifecta then and talk about how Google Stadia is kind of dropped the ball again.
Yeah, I don't know. We can keep talking about this every 2 weeks when they drop the ball again.
What ball? They haven't dropped a ball. They haven't held the ball.
Yeah.
They never caught the first pass.
Yeah, it's just they're like Charlie Browning themselves with like the football. They're
not really.
Everyone's waiting for them to like announce something like big and cool, and they're like, we got some old games.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've got, they said, Hitman 3 will be coming. I can't remember if they said something about Cyberpunk.
Especially given the xCloud announcements that happened this week. I'm just like,
We'll definitely get to
Stadia's
those. Yeah.
Stadia's is kind of screwed at this point. Like I don't see how they have any way forward.
Yeah, like I was after these events, and in general when anything Stadia comes up, I tend to look at their communities to see how their like biggest fans feel about them. Like, are they like, oh yeah, that event was everything I wanted, or like, yeah, Stadia, you're kicking all the butts. But after every event, the Stadia community is like, why do we keep supporting this? This is shitty.
Yeah, the response
even
from their hardcore fans of Stadia
yeah,
are like,
even the biggest fans, they're just like, this was a bad event. How are we ever going to grow this how's Google ever going to grow this platform into something cool if it's just going to keep being like this? And then I don't know. I maintain that I don't think Stadia is going to last very long.
Like because Sony had their big thing where it's like their big coming out party for the PS5.
Yep.
Microsoft has theirs this week coming up, and Google is just in the middle like, hey guys, it's the same old bullshit you've been playing. And they announced a few like exclusives, but
here's Sekiro. You can pay full price for it again.
Yeah. And play it in the worst way possible, streaming it in a game that is very timing sensitive.
It's what you want, I guess.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yep. Well, Alex mentioned it. Project xCloud, the big news coming from Microsoft. And next month, Project xCloud is getting rolled into Gamepass Ultimate, Xbox Live. What do they call it? The Ultimate thing, where it's everything.
Ultimate. Yeah.
Gamepad Ultimate.
Gamepass Ultimate.
Gamepass Ultimate. Yeah.
Gamepass Ultimate, which is the Xbox Live, PC, and console Game Pass package. You also get xCloud with that. I don't know if there's going to be like some separate offer to just have xCloud where you do your own games. I'm not sure.
Probably. Your own games. I don't know about that. But
so Phil's talked about like kind of extensively that the idea of streaming your games off of your Xbox to other devices is part of the xCloud picture. So like if you own a game on Xbox, you can boot your Xbox and play games running on it from a hotel room with a laptop or something.
Yeah.
But even outside of that, like, because they've said that's like a thing, they have to work on that with the consoles. And if they haven't been testing that, but is it just like, okay, I subscribe to xCloud. I don't have Game Pass, but I can play Halo on my phone or whatever because I bought Halo. I own it. I'm not at my Xbox.
No,
I think what this is going to do is, or the way this is going to work for a while at least, is just it's part of Game Pass. That's kind of been my assumption, is that it's just going to be a thing that is part of Game Pass for a while.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I think we on this podcast have been saying that xCloud should be part of Game Pass for probably around a year, if not more now.
We've talked about it for long enough that I feel like I can't remember if somebody said it was going to be like from Microsoft at some point, and if we have just been saying it should be.
I don't think they would have done that.
I think it's the latter. I think we've always been like, it would, like, if they did that, rule. Like, why would you ever get an Xbox and or like a new Xbox system? Because like PC, if you have a PC at least, and then
because then you're like you're kind of spending a weird amount of money because you're like, I'm paying for Xbox Live and console Game Pass and I don't own a console, but then you've got the streaming stuff. So it's, I don't know.
And again, if you live in the US, the streaming solution stuff, like I'm never going to really be able to use it. Yeah. The data cap stuff is way too aggressive to be able to realistically stream
That's
games.
fair.
So yeah.
Anyways, it's a good move.
Yep. And part of that, there's actually I don't think we talked about this last week. Microsoft Flight Simulator is coming out next month, August, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, God. And, next month is August?
Yep.
Fuck. Yep.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
We're already more than halfway through July.
What? We are? Yeah. Oh, my God. You're right.
Yep.
Oh.
And less than halfway through social isolation quarantine. Oh yeah, toot toot, motherfuckers.
Toot toot.
As if there's ever going to be a halfway through. Come on.
It's, you know, you move halfway to the thing, and then as long as you're always moving halfway towards halfway, you'll never reach the thing. I don't
2
know.
steps forward, 1 step back.
It's just moving halfway. You're constantly moving.
There's a super
half the distance.
There's a super hot thing.
Sure.
There was a
Okay,
super hot thing, yeah.
Anyway, Microsoft Flight Simulator. There was some shenanigans with it and like the Game Pass stuff.
I don't know.
You have to pay $120 for like some airports.
It's frustrating because there was a talk about, I swear, when they unveiled Game Pass Ultimate, one of the features they talked about was you get the Ultimate Edition of games.
Yeah,
I remember
like Gears, they did that.
Yes,
Forza.
and Forza and stuff.
Yeah,
and that is not the case with Flight Simulator. It almost seems like if you look at the Flight Simulator website, they're passing it off as, "Hey, this isn't a Microsoft game. The name's on the box, but it's not, and it isn't. It's not an internal Microsoft team that's making it. So it's not a first-party Microsoft developer that's making it. So I think they're trying to pass it off as, hey, this isn't technically a Microsoft game, even though it says Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it's a little weird because, like, you get the $60 version of the game if you have Game Pass, and then you can get additional planes. It's also complicated because, like, this game models the whole world. So you can go to any airport in the world that exists that's like registered as an airport, but they have hand modeled specific airports that are the most trafficked airports in the world to make them more realistic. And so you get more of those hand modeled airports that replace what would be generic airports if you buy like fancier editions of the game.
That sounds
and then
very
you also
dumb.
get more planes. So there is precedent for this. Like in the past, it's very dumb if you're looking at it from the outside as not like a flight sim enthusiast. In the past, Microsoft would put out a flight simulator game when they didn't have the ability to kind of generate the world from the satellite data. They still use satellite data in the past, but they didn't have the topographic data they have now. And what would happen is you would buy like Flight Simulator X for $40 or whatever the cost was when it came out, and everything that Microsoft made. And then you would go and buy an add-on for like, sometimes you could spend like $80 to get a single airport that was like a third-party add-on. And the same thing with planes too. Like they had third-party paid add-ons that you could buy in a box from a store. And so there is precedent for additional like content costing money. It's just been developed by third parties in the past rather than Microsoft. So like from a cost effective perspective, this isn't that bad, the pricing that they're charging. The problem that I have with it is like, it doesn't seem like it should. It seems to me like it should be part of that Game Pass Ultimate thing to get the Ultimate Edition. Yeah. And then even worse, they've said that you'll be able to upgrade your edition, but it's going to cost more money. You can't just buy the $60 version and then pay another $60 to get the deluxe edition or the Ultimate Edition. It will cost you more money in the long run to upgrade. They haven't said how much it will cost you to upgrade, just that it will be more. So on their page, they're gross. Like, on the page, they're like, there will be options for upgrading in the future. However, the most cost-effective way to upgrade is to purchase the version you're interested in, which is like really shitty in my opinion. So a lot about the launch of this thing sucks. It's like not great. I also feel like it looks utterly incredible and that's great, but I have not heard anyone comment on the flight model. I haven't heard anyone comment on things to do. Like, we don't know if the idea is you just get in the planes and fly around, which is enough for a lot of enthusiasts, but like, it's just sort of so little known about the game right now. Beyond it looks really pretty and it uses Bing Maps to model the world. So I think
there's a beta soon.
There's a closed beta at the end of the month that I'm hoping to check out. And I'm excited my current plan is, since I have Game Pass anyway, I'm going to play the $60 version a bit and see if it's worth putting money into, and then I guess buy the $120 version if I really like it, because I do love flight sim. Like I have, you know, a lot of equipment that I specifically have purchased in the past to play it. So, you know, I'm a casual enthusiast, but it is a weird release.
Are you gonna get the physical edition?
That has 10 DVDs.
DVDs. That's thinking low. I think they're Blu-ray discs, aren't they?
I think they are. They're probably Blu-rays.
It's so weird because it's not the install isn't that huge. I don't think. I wonder if it's just that.
Is it not? Oh, I guess because the maps are streaming, right?
Yeah. Well, so their world map is 2 petabytes.
Yeah.
God.
It's only possible because they use Azure servers to like stream the data to you while you play, which is a whole nother question. They haven't talked about the data use per hour for that either, which is, again, I know I am the one who beats that horse a lot, but it's important to know. If it's like playing World of Warcraft or something, then whatever. But if it's like streaming 4K video every time you play, like that's not going to work for me anyway.
These are 10-layer DVD or double-layer DVDs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this release could be really, really amazing, and that there's not a lot of data. Like I would think if it was really,
there's a lot of data.
Yeah, I mean data in terms of people talking about it from like leaking stuff from betas. But I would think if it's bad, that there would have been rumblings about that, because I don't think that flight sim enthusiasts would be able to keep quiet who are playing it if it was really bad. Because that community is like very exacting and like kind of pedantic at times. So like I would assume that if it's actually rough, that you would have heard something. And for them to still go ahead with a beta at the end of the month, that's really easy to get into. All you have to do is sign up for the Xbox Insider program. I would think they're pretty confident in it, but we'll have to see. I'm interested. They do, for their ideal spec for it is a 2080 and I think like a i9, basically the most expensive current hardware you can get, including 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is fucking wild. I've never seen anyone anywhere say, hey, you should have 32 gigabytes of RAM in a video game.
Yeah. Well, this is no ordinary video game.
That's true.
It's got it probably just to help load those maps faster, right, Alex? Would that be a thing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
To have more
load those texture maps
in memory. Yeah.
Like I imagine if we could get into it, but I imagine it's because you're streaming a lot of data to memory. Because if you're not storing it on a hard drive, where else are you going to put it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for the Xbox news, I think, right? Yeah. Okay. PlayStation. I think this is a PlayStation game. There was a tweet that went out about a game.
It's a multi-platform game. PlayStation put out a trailer that they
hastily deleted.
They
deleted right away
within like half an hour.
A smart move.
I believe I saw that when it went up, and I sent it to the chat.
You did.
You definitely did. Yeah.
I didn't even look at it because I was like, nope, I don't need to see this based on the.
I only watched it yesterday for the first time.
So not to talk around
Gamer
girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is to say about this. It looks bad.
Erica, you feel like it looks like you have something to say.
I have everything and nothing to say about the game. It just seems like the worst idea, and the fact that the devs are getting really defensive about it on Twitter is also rubbing me the wrong way.
It's not surprising at all either.
Yeah, it's like
look at who the devs are. Yeah,
it's like they gave like a co-writing credit to the actress in that game because she
improvised
her lines, but they're using it. It's like, look at our girl. Here's our girl. We consulted with a girl. Here's our girl.
Yeah. So like,
it's too much.
Like using her as their shield, basically. It's very, very weird.
To briefly summarize, it's basically an FMV game which is focused on a lady streamer. And you are playing as a moderator in her chat, basically, who's telling her what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and she's getting like harassed by people and like
And
people showing up to
stalked
her
and stuff,
door.
yeah.
Yeah, people showing up to her door and stuff like that. And
You're her
Yeah.
only savior.
yeah,
you know,
it's-
honestly, I don't know if like I think the idea of an FMV game where you're like with a streamer, like and solving a mystery isn't a bad idea. I think that's a good idea. But like it seems like they're doing it in such the most ham-fisted kind of way.
Mhm.
Yeah, like even the concept of, hey, let's look at what it's like to be a woman streamer in modern
Yeah,
days
you
and
could-
the kind
I'm
of
sure-
bullshit you have to deal with. Sure, but
Yeah,
the
but
way
that's the
they're
thing-
doing it,
Well, that's something I'd really want to hear from like an actual woman. And it's like that's why they're getting so defensive. Is like, here's the one woman that we have who's the actress
A woman, what do they know about
who did
streaming?
improv, but like the rest of the dev team seems to be dudes, at least from what I've
It's-
seen.
Yeah. Yes.
Also,
yes,
a thing-
white dudes.
When I hear that argument, not that I think you're making an argument, Alex, either, but when I hear that argument, one of the things that's so frustrating is that women are talking about what the experience of streaming is
Right.
like. You can get that narrative from women who do it, but people always just work to like dismiss and silence those women. So it's like,
oh yeah, no, I'm saying in terms of like a game subject, a piece of narrative
I
fiction.
don't think it's
yeah.
a bad subject, and I think that having like an FMV game where you're looking at it through the lens of a streamer is actually like a fun idea.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
I
interesting.
think that like there is a universe out there where this is actually a good game, but it's like with a like different dev team and with a
Yeah.
different
I think more what I'm
perspective.
trying to get at is like, if you're a team, like let's say Alex, you and I find that topic really interesting and we want to fund and do the legwork to develop that game. The first thing I would say is like, here's a list of like actual people who might be interested in trying to develop that experience and hand them the creative reins if they wanted to do it, you know, like don't
Right.
do it
Yeah,
as a
the
dude, write
first thing the first thing I would do is message my friend who's a streamer and for whom I moderate their chat and say, hey, how would you handle this? And then make sure that like their
Exactly.
suggestions are put. And then like one of the first things you do is like, hey, like we gathered these kind of perspectives from people who actually have to go through this shit, rather than being like,
hey, does this sound
we
like
wrote
a good
this
idea?
story.
Rather than
we wrote the
Yeah.
story, and now you guys are mad at us because we're not lady streamers. Rawr. Like it's so stupid.
If you look at like something like The Missing as a great example,
Sure.
Swery consulted with like a bunch of actual trans people to tell that story as
Yeah.
something that's like not part of his life experience. And generally the response that I saw from the trans community was pretty positive on the story of that game. Not
Totally.
across the board, no group of people is a monolith, but you know, an approach like that maybe could make something like this interesting. But not to mention the fact that the first half of that trailer is like, this is kind of weird and creepy, but it's an interesting topic. But then it goes into like, oh, and there's a stalker in the chat that is gonna try to murder her. And then it turns into like just a normal ass FMV adventure game where you're telling her what to do as a dude ostensibly. And it's just like, fucking come on.
And I just feel like also the culture around that stuff already kind of makes a lot of people who watch streamers, women streamers specifically, they feel very entitled to like their lives already and
Yeah.
controlling parts of their lives. And hey, I gave you money, or hey, I'm moderating your chat, or hey, I'm doing this for you, so you should, you know, pay attention to me and do things for me. And it just like, it feels yucky. It just feels yucky all over.
Yeah,
Mhm,
and like I think there's a way that you could do it. It's just like, man,
This ain't
I
it,
don't
fam.
Not
Yeah.
the time, not the format, not
Yeah.
the not the game.
yeah, because I think that talking about the way that a lot of people feel entitled towards their content creators or towards streamers in particular is not a bad thing to talk about, because I mean
Oh.
that certainly is a big problem, but everything about this just feels so ham-fisted. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think there's anything particularly positive any of us could say about this. Like, other than it could be done better, but this isn't the thing that's going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to one more story. We're gonna cut a bunch here because we're coming up on 3 hours. Unless people really want to talk about some of this other stuff.
There's one I really want to talk about, but maybe we'll get there.
Twitch had to tell the U.S. Army and other, like the Navy. I think the Navy was also involved. Basically, the U.S. military to stop sending people to bogus giveaway forms that were actually military recruitment pages.
Yeah, they're like, hey, do you want a free Xbox One controller? Click this link, and then it would just bring you to a recruitment page. Sign up for the Army.
Oh my God.
It's actually illegal to do that.
Yeah.
What they did, specifically for the military to do that too.
Well, since when has the U.S. government cared about what's legal
I
recently?
Of course.
God, there's Twitter presence that I've seen just based off of like people commenting on it and retweets it's horrible.
I hope that
it's bad.
What I hope happens is somebody brings a suit about that and files it against Twitch as well, because Twitch was complicit in that. Twitch should ban that channel. Is really what I feel. Yeah, but that would be a shitstorm for them, I'm sure too.
I think there is a suit coming because they banned people for asking about U.S. war crimes.
And I think that's actually the part that's fully illegal, not just the clickbaiting part.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least a stronger case can be made about that.
Yeah.
Because that is an example for people listening of actual censorship when you ask a government entity a legitimate question and then they silence your ability to continue to ask that question. That is actual government censorship, just by way of using Twitch mods to do it.
Yep. So, the U.S. Army on Twitch, get them the fuck off.
Yep.
How about just U.S. Army on any kind of social media?
U.S. Army, just the whole U.S. Army, just in the bin, in the garbage.
Down.
Yeah, but man, just seeing that that Twitter account go ooh was just horrible.
Yeah.
Andre,
well,
I'm trying to call attention to one thing we should talk about,
and then we can wrap it up. But I also need to. It's important.
This is an important piece of news.
This is not.
This is an important piece of
news. If this was Arby's, I would accept it.
This is an important piece of news.
This is not gaming.
Taco Bell's taking away all of the food that I eat.
Pat is going to wither away and starve.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do? No potato items?
You will slowly hear less and less of him on the podcast.
No potato items?
They're getting rid of all potato items?
Yes. Yeah. No more potatoes at Taco Bell. They're getting rid of the triple layer nachos.
So what do they do with the half-pound potato burrito? Is it
it's
now
gone.
No longer
it's done. Gone. It's no longer exists. There's no more loaded grillers at all. You can't get the beefy nacho griller either. There's no more griller items with Fritos in them available. They're getting rid of the quesarito. They're getting rid of the 7-layer burrito. It's ridiculous.
I didn't know they were getting rid of all the stuff I eat.
Yeah, exactly. See what I'm saying? Basically, you can eat tacos now.
You need to get this news out to the people.
You can eat tacos.
Is this just like a Corona thing? Is it going to come back?
No, it's a thing they do. They rotate their menu.
Why do they always get rid of the stuff that people like, though?
I don't know. They get rid of the stuff people like, I think. Well, okay. My theory is that they get rid of the stuff that people like because they know that you're still going to go there. And then next year they can be like, your favorites are back. And then you'll start eating more.
Yeah. They're going to bring it back. But I bet their business is down right now. So they'd be like, okay, we're cutting stuff to cut costs. And they just bring stuff back.
I bet it's the opposite because they were a place that very quickly, as a chain, adopted coronavirus measures. I think, I don't know, from what I have seen, the Taco Bells in my area have only increased in business since the pandemic lockdown started because drive-through is much. I think there's a perception that drive-through is safer than going into restaurants to pick up food. And what are people going to do? Cook for themselves? No. They're just going to find easier ways to get other people to cook for them. So I don't know. I think maybe they're doing just fine and they know that they're going to probably continue to do just fine through the rest of this pandemic. And so this way they can goose the numbers next year when their profits fall after people can go eat at their favorite restaurants again. which Taco Bell is no longer because they're taking away all my food options.
As someone who has never been to Taco Bell, this is making me not missing much. Taco Bell.
Oh, that's ridiculous. You're missing plenty, but they're just removing it all. Now you're never going to have a burrito with a quesadilla as the tortilla.
Oh, that sounds good.
You can make that yourself. Just make it at home.
Good.
You can do it.
I'm not making that at home. Are you kidding me?
It's easy.
There's so much work that goes into that.
Buy a bag of shredded cheese, buy a bag of tortillas, and you just like... I mean, sure, you're going to have a mess, but that's the cost of living, baby.
Erica, you made a bad...
I made a bad dispenser for Taco Bell Diablo sauce packets during quarantine. That's all I have to say about it.
Sauce is still available, so I can go there and get one cheesy bean and rice burrito, one for $1, and make them give me an entire bag of sauce. And that's how I'm going to get my revenge on Taco Bell.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
A single Beazy Cheen. All right. Well, what? You not a fan of the Beazy Cheen?
The hell's a Beazy Cheen?
Okay, so the cheesy bean and rice burrito.
No, wait, never mind.
It's a Beazy Cheen. It's a Beazy Cheen. That's what it is. Okay. All right. Well, that was a long one, and we didn't even get to all our news.
I mean, I think they've all been around 3 hours for the past 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a long.
No, we've cut down on a few recently, but
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Yeah, no, we totally have. We've had like some 2 hours. We had one that was like 90 minutes, maybe. I swear.
No, we've never had a 90-minute
There's
one.
There's not been a 90-minute episode in the year, in this calendar year.
Like, yeah, maybe like when we first started, but now, no.
Yeah.
Let's take a peek. See here.
We had a 2-minute episode not a month ago.
Okay.
That was
like
a special case.
Let's see.
Last week
Episode 116. Gotta Love the Glove. April 11th, 2020. An hour and 40 minutes, 30 seconds.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Erica, it's great to have you back. We love you when we
Yes, we love having you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. I'll be on next week too.
Hell yeah.
Also joining us next week, I believe, will be Joel from the Super GG Radio podcast to talk about the Xbox event coming this week, where they are going to show off some games. So apparently the pre-show is going to have some cool stuff from third parties. Why is it in the pre-show? Put it in the show. The pre-shows are always bad because you have to listen to people talk about bullshit. Just if the games are so great and amazing, put them in the show. That's what people are going to watch. God. Anyway, that's going to do it for episode 130 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on July 18th, 2020. You can find us, the podcast, on Twitter at Fyx Podcasts, or head over to podchaser.com/gamingfyx and leave us a review and a rating. We'd really appreciate it. Help us improve. You can send us an email at gaming@fyx.space if that's what you're into. I don't know. You can find me, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite file format, on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. I'm going to work on trying to get to streaming, but that'll probably be after next week's episode. So, yeah, you head over there and you can find out when I start doing that. Allison, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Great. Pat?
Find me at PJC Plays.
Erica?
At Erica, spelled AIREHCUH.
And Alex, where can people find you?
You can see me following Erica at AIREHCUH on Twitter.
Great. Thanks for joining me, everybody. It's good to have you back, Erica.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.
Bye.
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 Bye.